Start.
Look at that.
3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Malvision podcast with my cat, who wants to get away now.
He's such a cat.
He's so EP.
He's not EP. They're definitely not EP. They're not as EP as they're not as EP as the cat that literally can't stand up. So we've made some changes to the format, completely new format for the show, like, in terms of segments. We're going to be starting with the news, and then I think we'll do the weather forecast, then the sports, and then economy. You could actually probably fit most of those into Deep Rock, I reckon. No, what I was actually talking about is we made some changes to the approach to audio. There's this feature that OBS has that I don't know if it's been around forever. It's technically a beta feature, which makes me hope that it's a new feature and that we haven't been missing it this entire time. And if this sounds better, then, well, first of all, please let us know. But I think we'll be able to tell ourselves if it does sound better. So hopefully that is locked in. But either way, I think we might have some stuff to talk about, potentially.
Really?
Yeah. Although I think I don't want to be like, I don't know if I want to be like coy in that way. It's like, oh, we don't really have anything to talk about. Nothing big happened. Because in a lot of ways, I wouldn't say anything like actually big did happen. And I think I want to talk about sort of the way this entire thing went down, how it feels in terms of being both extremely positive, but also very streamlined and very lean. And I think that's probably going to be the first thing we talk about, which is the actual anniversary stream itself, which of course happened on Thursday. And you'll know it wasn't too much of like an emergency because we didn't record yesterday. This podcast is coming out today. Although I don't know, we didn't even really talk about that. We didn't actually talk about when we were going to record, but I think it's just like, it just gives it time to digest. But also, I think that's my first reaction to the stream. I'm assuming we're going to talk a little bit about the whole thing, but overall, I'm surprised at how refreshed I was in that there wasn't a lot to take in, but I also wasn't like, I wasn't disappointed or shocked in any negative way either. It was honestly kind of refreshing for it to just be a very streamlined dose of positivity, I think. And I kind of respect that approach,
Yeah, I think streamlined is definitely the word for that stream. Compared to last year, which was like a 4-hour extravaganza, like that was like a whole thing.
And it was almost hard to sit through for us, because we're so focused on, obviously I didn't even say it, but I was meant to say right at the beginning, we've got to keep in mind this isn't just going to be like 4 hours of them talking about, the next update or what have you. But that was still really the only thing to speak of. And in fact, it wasn't even like short. I think it was almost maybe even at least half of the actual time was spent at least with Mikkel and Soren, at least. The first half was the most disappointing half because we weren't there.
It's okay, Ghost. We forgive you for not inviting us over there.
Hey, look, maybe this audio quality upgrade will have an effect on our standing in the community. I don't know.
We understand that, you would have had to have gotten us both out for just one channel, and it's kind of like 2 birds, 1 stone. You get 2 other channels. It's worth more. We get it. We do expect to be invited next year.
No. We can like share in every aspect of like, what's paid for. Like, doesn't matter. So 1 plane seat, not a problem. All right, Tyler will just stand up.
Sit on each other's lap.
No.
Oh.
Hotel. I don't know. Tyler will just stand outside.
I think I'm going to be doing a lot of standing.
Food. Tyler doesn't eat. It doesn't matter.
It'll give me some crumbs.
You don't eat as much as me. You definitely don't eat as much as I do.
Point is it was still a really cool idea. Obviously, though, we weren't invited. But then again, why would we? I mean, compared to those guys, they really are the hallmarks of the Deep Rock YouTube sphere, right?
Yeah. In my opinion,
Cactus Chronos that wasn't there, and because they couldn't get him.
Yeah, although I think they genuinely, at least they got a really good variety, I think, because I think especially the ones who are considered the top 3, especially, like SNIS, Explorian, and Lazy Maybe are all extremely different, both in terms of like tone, approach, and like the types of videos as well. And they're all like of equal quality in doing very different things, I think. And
Yeah.
I think it's also, it kind of just proved. I think they talked to him for the longest, and he probably got the most in-depth questions and the most exciting questions. It's kind of just proved that Lazy Maybe is, I think, the undesired uh, king. I don't think he's happy with his crown because he doesn't play the YouTube game as much as someone probably should if
Yeah.
they were, because it's not his job and he doesn't treat it as a job, but he still makes the best videos both the best deep rock videos because they are
Well, the thing is,
genuinely
I both.
extremely informative and but also entertaining as well, and not even just because
Yeah.
of the humor. There's not much humor, but there's enough dry humor. But even then, they're entertaining aside from the humor. It's just he makes that stuff interesting, and I respect him so much. He's definitely my
He
favorite of the bunch, like by far. Um,
Yeah, and I think obviously, as we mentioned, the questions implied that as well. Because when it was like they've all done their like 10 minutes of explaining how they got into deep rock and why they're making videos on it, stuff like that. Once they'd done all that, it was then like, all right, we have like 10 minutes to just ask anyone questions, and then it was just lazy maybe, like the whole time, just
yeah,
people just kept
I think
asking him like, stuff,
Laser
which is
Maybe
pretty
is like the
funny.
one of the bunch who should probably be a member of Ghost Ship because he understands the game like I think a lot better than a lot of them even do. And
That's
I think that's
literally what
I
they
don't think
said
that's
on the stream.
because they don't actually know, or at least I think it's not because they didn't know. I think a lot of the people who we know that a lot of the people who made certain things aren't at the company anymore, for example. Like the miners union, like as probably one of the biggest examples, the person who made that isn't
Yeah,
actually at the studio anymore, and I reckon that could apply to like a lot of things, like armor breaking. Like literally, the guy who developed the original mechanic might not be around anymore. But Lazy Maybe is someone who just is able to go into the code and break it down, and even if he's not like literally word for word describing the code of it, he still understands it in a way that is accurate to what it is in a way that could be used constructively. Like he knows it well enough that what he knows could be applied, and you could like apply what he says and have it work. Basically, he's not going to come up with
yeah,
things that will break the game because he understands it well enough. So he's genuinely someone who should probably be working for them. But yeah, I
yeah.
found that segment refreshing as well, but only in retrospect because I was getting a little bit worried the longer it went on at what we were actually really getting out of this stream. And then of course,
Yeah.
we got half to the halfway point, or we didn't know it was going to be the halfway point because it was very short as well. I can't remember many before last year's, but last year's was obviously very long. It's roughly 4 hours, I'm pretty sure. And this was like just under 2 hours, so very short, but like I already established, that is actually one of the reasons why I found it refreshing. Because then we got to the halfway point, Mikkel and Soren showed up, and it's like, yes, they talked a little bit about. I actually can't even remember what they said though before they actually showed the season 5 stuff, but I still, I think appreciated everything they said, and then they just got into it. They just got into it, and
Yeah.
I think that's something else I like. We kind of have talked about how not that we want them to do things like apologize because we don't actually think they need to, but like things like acknowledging, how things have gone recently, but mainly season 4, things like that. But they kind of didn't, and I think that's also something I was surprisingly okay with as well because it's kind of just like, why would we dwell on that? Let's just focus on the next thing that we know is going to be good, and that's exactly what it
Yeah.
was, and that's kind of I think what we're going to do for the most part anyway. Um, but they still talked about. We got them to talk about certain things as well, though. I think maybe we should talk a little bit about. I think
Well, that's the
two
Q
main
and
things
A.
that we were able to get out of them, or we and other people from asking questions. Yeah,
Yeah. The Q&A section after they had announced everything, they had like another 10 or so minutes, probably more, maybe 20, where they got to talk about stuff. The usual questions. I mean, not like the super usual. They didn't bring up the water biome or anything, but
if
like
they
merch
did, they wouldn't have
and stuff like
mentioned it.
that.
Like if anyone did bring up the water biome, then they wouldn't have talked about it. I think
Yeah,
they
but the
probably would
perk
have.
rework came up again,
Yep.
which is, obviously that's like the bog standard. If there's like you're talking to the devs, the perk rework's going to come up, and it still seems to be in the same limbo that they just can't figure out how they want to do it.
Yeah, but at the very least, it sounds like they have it down to trying to pick the scale of it. Is what it more so is. There's like two paths they could go down in terms of how thorough it is. Whether or not it's a full on rework, or whether or not they just adjust perks via a perk focused update. That would just like there'd be some balancing and just adding some more, or would it be a complete from the ground up rework of the system? And I can see why that's a really difficult debate to have, you know, because like
Yeah,
a
it,
full
it kind of seems like he made
rework,
his mind.
yeah, but a full rework of the perk
Like,
system from the ground up, that's bigger than that's at least as big as making a new set of guns. Not maybe just one half, maybe just like your primaries. Like for example, it's definitely bigger than making like any of the other equipment additions we've gotten in seasons, including the
they would
overclocks, right?
be they would be making a whole new system from the ground up. Like,
Yeah.
I guess the closest thing to that would probably be the mini games when they started adding them. Like, I imagine that might be the closest. Or I guess maybe
But
the
they're building a
stuff
system from the
they're
ground
cleaning
up with
thing.
all the technical debt the game has now, and also having it serve as a replacement and like improvement in every way upon the system that it's replacing. And they're doing it from the
Yeah.
ground up. It needs to be better than the perk system is as it is, but they also can't build off it if they're going from the ground up. They have to literally start from scratch. So I can see why that is really a complicated decision
Yeah.
to
But
have.
like, it's then like, all right, so if you're not going to do that, you might as well just add overclock so people are happy. But they're like, nothing changes if they add overclocks. That energy is not actually worth it. Like they, as you mentioned, like they would add new overclocks and
Perks.
people would have it within the like perks. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
perks.
careful.
They
Because...
would have it within like 5 minutes, right? Most people would have all of the new
Exactly.
perks within 5 minutes, and as you mentioned, they would find the new meta almost instantly, and then that's it. They barely changed the game like at all with the perks, and so like it does seem to be that they're just kind of like hyping themselves up to bite that bullet. That like we're just gonna have to do the perk rework at some point, but this is not that point, right? They
Yeah,
did say it's not season 5, and
I
obviously they're
think...
going to be working on Rogue Core after.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I think what's even more,
like,
not necessarily
but
frustrating, but to me, it's clear that they've set themselves up to not have to do it even for season 6. You know, because chances
yeah,
are season 6 is going to bring overclocks for the secondary weapons. I mean, it's a very strong chance, like almost. You know, I think that's an over 90% chance of that happening already for season 6. You know, probably the only thing
yeah.
we could say about it, and I think that once again locks off the perk rework. But I suppose that does give a definitive point after which we can be like, surely this is the only thing you can do now, right? Surely, like, come
Yeah.
on. It's like, no, we're making new guns. It's like, okay.
I don't think there's a chance in hell that they're going to make a new set of guns before they deal with the overclocks. Because let's be honest,
Perks, Tyler,
I think
come
the
on, you got to
overclock
get this. Is not good.
yeah, perk.
This, I'm
The
actually not
perk
going to let it slide. Like, this is an important distinction, especially in this episode.
the perk rework is like the most important thing, the most requested thing, even more than new guns, I would say. Like I genuinely think it is the most important thing they could technically add, or at least the
Yeah.
most desired thing they could add.
I think a biome is
But
really
they
high
just
up there,
yeah,
and I think that's why, like, obviously we're jumping ahead
that'll be season 7,
so
no
far.
6 rather.
But if season 6 is a biome and the perk rework, that is a beautiful future that I want to live in, personally. Where we've just got
That's just the other side
back
to
to
what this one
back
is,
two
right?
of the best seasons, imaginable.
Yeah, because this season is already, as we're going to elaborate, ticking a lot of the boxes of what people want. But the gaps are biomes and the perk rework, and then obviously we'll get into it. But the secondary overclocks would be part of that. Um, if they can tick all 3 of those boxes for season 6, at that point in time, I think you could sunset Deep Rock. Like that. That's like from now on, it's preferable. I don't think there are any glaring things that like, come on, why haven't you done this yet? Like that kind of thing.
Okay,
Um,
but if we're thinking about sunsetting for some reason, I think
I'm just saying that's it,
I
right?
know,
Like,
but when they're actually sunsetting, that's when they do have to start like, okay, we need to think about something that is exclusively for people who are already playing the game. Because as soon as you sunset a game, suddenly your amount of new players is going to start dwindling. So infinite promotions has to happen at some point. It
I guess,
objectively,
yeah, that
has
too.
to make sunsetting the game okay, and that's so. Which is why I'd agree with you as long as that's included, right? Um, that's all I'd ask. And
Yeah,
also,
because that's like one of the biggest
just
requests
put
for.
Anders on like a box and have him make like pump out like a new overclock like every 2 weeks or something as well. Like have him do that.
That would be crazy. But yeah, no, I think
Well, they should like
because
make
I
like a
guess
they
we
should
could
make like a
probably
massive package of content that they can like drip feed over the next few years after they sunset it or something. I don't know. That might be
maybe.
ridiculous. But they
But
could like
I think they're never going to be like far away doing nothing relevant, right? Like even this is why I say it. Like sunsetting Deep Rock just means that they would be putting more attention in road core, right? That's all I ever think of it that way. Like they're never going to be just be going to do irrelevant other things that no one gives a rat's ass about. They're going to be doing road core, which I think is going to translate very one to one as far as like people want to play as much as Deep
yeah.
Rock is
Well,
concerned.
I think that's something we're going to have to sort of wait and see in terms of how people and how Ghost Ship respond to road core and how much people like it and whatever. It sounds very basic, but what I mean is, I can almost imagine them not wanting to abandon one while they're working on the other. I've got this kind of feeling
Yeah,
that the two are going to be extremely intertwined for them forever, and that
yeah,
even if it gets to the point where Deep Rock content is even slower than right now, I think they're still going to probably not want to abandon it as long as road core's going on. I get that feeling, um, and that's kind of what I want. I think obviously we'll have to really wait and see because it's going to have a lot to do with how well fed Rogue Core feels. Like that's something we haven't really ever considered. I think it's going to be amazing. I think we both think it's going to be ridiculous how quick and how thorough the content additions for Rogue Core are going to be. But there's still something we
yeah.
haven't experienced yet is how well fed it's going to feel for Rogue Core when they're also going to be trying to do because I feel like people really don't think about it enough or give them enough credit. Like I get so I don't know why I look at the Steam comments, on these posts. And by the way, so there's this thing on Steam. It's called like the Clown Award, right? Like people actually people can give people awards, right, for their comments. One of them's just the Clown Award, and I guess it does actually give them like points of some kind. And so I think people are just farming that, but there's still so much bullshit. And when you think about it, it's actually kind of ridiculous that they do have arguably a finished game on their hands, and they're choosing to make another one, and yet they're still doing. They've actually upped the amount of updates they're doing for that arguably finished game. They are both doing smaller updates and continue to do the bigger updates. The next example of those bigger updates, that being Seasons, actually looks better than the last three of them. So I don't know, man. I can't get on this train of thinking that they're making any kind of decision out of any motive other than just wanting to do like the coolest thing possible. It's just so clear that they actually do have it in terms of I don't even know if competency is the right word. But I don't know. I'm so when you actually think about it, it's kind of ridiculous that they're actually keeping this up. I
Yeah.
can't not respect it. But I did mention maintenance updates as well just now, which is I think is the other thing that we managed to get them to talk about. I think I didn't see anyone else mention them in the chat
Yeah.
during the stream.
Um,
Um, it was very
and I
important,
think that is
especially to get Mikkel and Soren's take. More so Mikkel, in fact, take on maintenance updates. And I think in most ways it was kind of what we thought. Which is there are obvious pros and cons. And that means they can't really decide whether or not they're going to do more right now. Because there is a debate. They've just put out, two of them over the last couple months. So now they're probably in the stage of, or they will be once season 5 is done, of like figuring out, is that our next Deep Rock update, or do we just like try and get season 6 out, less than a year after season 5 or something?
yeah.
I don't know.
That's the key thing though, is that like the future maintenance updates is not something they should be thinking about now because they got season 5 on the way, and it's not something they should be thinking about even after season 5. But they're going to be working on road core to get that out right on time. So it's not until like road core comes out you're going to have to like look at Deep Rock essentially and be like, is it gonna work? Like, is this is this yeah, is this possible? Like, is can we release more than one season a year? Should we? Like,
Yeah.
what
And
about
how
maintenance
like
updates? I think that's when
how
it's gonna come
valuable
up.
could maintenance updates even be going forward? Like what could they actually have in them, for example? Like straight up. It's kind of hard to conceptualize, especially because, based on our list of season 5 stuff, there's still stuff that you in there that you might have expected from a maintenance update, but they're still doing it in seasons anyway. There's still all of that miscellaneous stuff. Which is why I reckon there's going to be a real debate once season 5 is done and out about how they're going to go like proceed forward. And it's just like, you know should there be more maintenance updates? Should they focus on season 6 as soon as possible? Because I think, based on the cycle, I think it's very very possible to have season 6 be, less than another year after season 5. But that might come at the sacrifice, that might come at the expense of still having a really long gap, because there wouldn't be any smaller updates, but it still might be less of a gap between season 5 and 6 as season 4 and
Yeah,
5. And I imagine there'd be
but like
debates like what's actually better, because do the maintenance updates actually do anything?
that's kind of what Mikkel said, right? Is that it was the main pro and the main con is pro. It's like good, right? like they do it like improves the game. The con is that it only improves the game for like the people playing already. It doesn't bring anyone new in, which and it sounds bad, but he does say that it's a bunch of effort. They do kind of expect something out of it, and that isn't really, that's a problem. That new players won't come back for that, and he doesn't expect them to, but he knows still that yeah, maintenance updates are not going to entice new players. There isn't a universe where they will.
Mm.
This prop hunt might have done a little bit, I guess, because it's
Mm.
quite a fun little thing. But they didn't give a rat shit about the armor break patch, right? Which is realistically the biggest point of the maintenance update.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, are they going to have to sugarcoat every maintenance update? But that's only going to take more effort, right? And probably fill the game with a bunch of weird stuff like the prop hunt. Not that that's a bad thing, but it's going to take even more effort to try and make them marketable. Or they bite the bullet and either just acknowledge that they're not going to entice new players, but the game is better, and it is keeping the current players playing for longer, or they just ditch the whole thing, right? And then they'll just
Yeah.
release seasons whenever that is a thing.
But that's the thing. I think
Patches obviously
right
after.
right now, I don't know what I think the better option is, and I think we kind of need to get season 5 first. Really figure out, first of all, how much legs is season 5 going to have. That's sort of the question, I think. It's going to have pretty long
Yeah.
legs, by the way. I think it's pretty objective, far longer than a lot of the previous seasons. Not necessarily season 2 though. Even if I think it might be best in season 2, can't the weapons are so ridiculously all encompassing, like just
Yeah.
giving life to the gameplay experience. But not that season 5 doesn't have some of that. Which is why I guess the only thing we have to talk about is, I guess, what wasn't in the anniversary stream, and this has a lot to do with it being like very streamlined. But then we sort of realized, just based on one thing that they said, that that's kind of not really an issue, given that they mentioned another on the Horizons stream at some point. The way they
It's
said
like
it
the
sounds
next
like
couple
it's gonna
months.
the way they said it sounds like it's gonna be at least earlier than the last year's one, which I think means that they are going to be more of a thing that they can do when they feel they need to. It's almost like a dev stream kind of thing, but they have more flexibility with it. Like the dev stream, they kind of pigeonholed into only talking about what they actually have at that moment, but an on the Horizon stream can be chosen for them to talk about something that they've just realized that they can talk about. And I do think that one's going to be more road core focused, and I think that's the point though, because there was nothing for road core in the anniversary stream, and I think we were expecting something, even if it's going to be very small.
It's not quite true, but it is also even more true than you think. The only thing we
Mm,
heard about Rollcore is that the
yeah, yeah.
closed alpha is delayed, or at least it's very unlikely to be coming out in the first quarter, which is when they said it would.
Oh no, it can't
And it's
though. No,
very
it,
unlikely
it
to
can't
come
come
out
out
even until
because they're not working on road core right
yeah,
now. It literally can't come
yeah,
out in the
it's
first
not going to
quarter.
come out until they are done with season 5. which obviously that's like June. They're still generally pretty, really not like 100% confident, but they feel pretty. There's no real setbacks, it seems, for to say June. So that's like what, like halfway through the year then at that point, right?
Yeah,
Is when like the closed alpha, which I'm not even sure what that is. Like, is that like they're gonna give out a code to certain
I
people or
think
something?
so. I think so. I think that's what it
And
is.
obviously, with that being said, it is also playable. That much we do also know because the YouTubers that got invited there played Road Core
Mm.
before they went on the stream. So it's in a playable state, but I guess not playable enough. I can only assume that those YouTubers are going to be like prevented talking about it as well, right?
Yeah,
Like they've signed like
yeah. They were
a
signed an NDA. I'm sure they must have done.
yeah,
Um, which is weird. Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting conversation because it's like, oh, so the closed alpha is definitively delayed. What does that? What does that actually mean? Does that mean road core is delayed? Um, maybe, maybe. That I think that means it's at
yeah.
least on the table.
I think it comes down to like this is just my guess. Since they didn't say this, but I think they were still spending more time on Deeprox than they thought they would. Right? I think
Yes.
that's what I think it is. Is that like they were expecting to not have allocated so much resources and for so long to these maintenance updates,
Well,
and now
this
season five.
is I can't remember if I actually said it or not, but this is kind of exactly what I thought would happen, which is them starting work on road core would be extremely like energizing on both sides of the fence, and that you know
Yeah.
I think they expected it to take longer for them to want to come back to Deep Rock, but I think it was probably almost as soon as they started working on a different game, they were like immediately frothing to get back to working on Deep Rock again. Like I think it was probably
Yeah.
immediate, and I think that's been shown. And I don't know how. I think we can probably fairly definitively say that's not bad. I don't know how good that is though, specifically for road core, because you could argue that the closed alpha being delayed is literally just because they chose to start working on season 5 earlier than they expected, which doesn't mean that road core isn't inherently on track, you know. But
Yeah, they might have been working on it faster than they thought they would, but it's still like
you
how
almost
that
have
occurred.
you almost have to hope that they actually tire themselves out on season 5 so that they do actually go back to working on road core. You know, to
Well,
actually get
bear in
it out when
mind
they said it would be out.
when the season 5 comes out, they'll be releasing season 5, doing patches, and then going on break, right? Until like coming back in late like August,
Yeah,
right?
it's usually
First
like
day
it's
of August is when they
usually
come back.
no. It's usually like late. Well, think about it. Normally, it's like normally you go back to school work. Like normally you go back to school September. I think they like right at the end of August is usually when they come back. So like just like
I
right
thought they
before the end
left
of
in
summer.
July.
Hmm? I don't know.
I thought they left in July.
I think you
Um,
might be right. I'm
Either
not sure.
way, um, they might try and get out a closed alpha before they go on break, but they also might not, which is going to put it even further back. Either way, it is definitely going to be unapologetic, heads down, hard work on road core after that. I imagine, right? Like, because at that
Exactly.
point,
That's
that's the only
yeah.
promise they need to make.
Yeah, so
Like
which
that they
means
need
we
to keep.
can, I think, pretty definitively say there won't be another Deep Rock update this year after season 5. I think that's actually
It
pretty
would be
set in
very
stone.
surprising.
There could be
Yeah.
one, the next one, if it is a maintenance update, for example, could be quite early next year, potentially. But aside from that, that's not really something you should be thinking about. And this is kind of the entire point, which is let's just focus on the very next thing and how good it looks like it's going to be. And that
Yeah.
is season 5, which is coming. I think it is coming in June. Like, I don't think you need to be too worried about that because all that is just they're not in a position to give a release date, so they can't actually like say 100% that it's going to come out when they think it's going to come out because they can't put a date on it. That's kind of all it is. I don't think there's any doubt. They've already put so much thought into it. Like, this is the most complete like outline of a season that we've seen. Ever before like starting to see teasers and we've never seen this much detail on what's going to be in. Actually, you could almost argue any update, in fact. Like, and now they're just going to be going to work on it for the next, well, however many months, and they've already been working on it in some capacity. Anders, for example, has already done a lot of
Well,
work on
it was
Overclocks
like
in the
4
Stalker.
months, I think, in
I
the
think it's
end.
going to be at least 4 months in
Uh,
total.
oh, Starting from this month, whole of next month, whole of the month after, and then it's in June. I think if that's how I remember it correctly.
Yeah,
I
but
don't really know
there's
months
already
well
been,
enough.
like, I think that you could argue there's probably been roughly a month's work done already over, based on what we've like been hearing,
Yeah,
especially in terms of planning, because the planning is usually a part of it as well, and clearly it's already been planned, or at least 90% of it's been planned. So
yeah,
it's also that I think that is literally the most important thing, is that they know what they're doing, going into it
yeah.
very clearly.
And
Well,
and what they're doing is what everyone wants. It seems like they're going to be adding a game mode that people ask for, but also a game mode that it seems like they want to make, right? Like they want to go back to the original game modes. Like, I mean, which I guess we'll get into more into. But I just want to say before we get into the details that they also dropped I wouldn't say bombshell, but they are moving to a bigger office because they are getting and are a
yeah.
bigger team, which I think is worth mentioning because thank God.
Exactly, and I think
Like,
that's really important because that actually could be why what I said might not be true. There could be that might mean they are developing, even if it's smaller than the main team, a dedicated maybe not even a dedicated deep rock team, but like a dedicated off team. They're working on. They have like a smaller team who are always on the one that isn't the current main focus or something. I don't know if that's what I don't know what their plans are, but that sounds like
either
something.
way, they have more resources when they need it, and they have when if they split their resources, it will still be like as much or close to their original full resources, right? Like
Yeah,
them like upscaling to the point where they even need a new bigger office is really good news because that was the main concern is that it was just they were too small to manage two games. It was a bit silly. You can be a small team and manage one game. I
yeah.
think that's cool and often works, as Ghost Ship proves. But two games, I don't know. You'd need at least two small teams, is what I was thinking. And it seems like they're heading towards that direction, which is cool. Don't really know what we're talking about, but it seems better than like them staying the same size and then being split between two games.
Yeah, I
Um,
think it's something
but
that we weren't 100% sure about at first, was whether or not they really, not that they didn't know what they were doing, but whether or not they actually knew what they'd signed themselves up for. And there's a chance that they didn't at first, and that's why they hadn't started
yeah,
expanding before the announcement of Road Corps. I would say the expansion really only started after the announcement, and I think that potentially proves that not that they bit off more than they can chew, but that they bit off more that they can chew at first. But obviously they've reacted to that, and that's fine by expanding the
yeah,
team. And I just think just that the fact that they're not just burying their heads in the sand and just being very stuck in their ways, which I think in a lot of ways they have been. Um, there's a lot of very strict decisions made about Deep Rock, for example, that they just aren't willing to move on. Like, I think there is a stubbornness to them, but I think this is the one thing that they really needed to change. And I think we actually said that at one point where
we did.
this is like their scale as a developer is the one thing they need to acknowledge that might need to change, and they are changing it. So that's good.
Yippee!
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yippee.
it is good.
So
It
I
paints
mean,
a
I
really
don't want
good
to
picture.
like try and I don't want to interrupt this for this, but you're freeze framed, and you were earlier as well.
Yeah,
Are you aware of this?
I've
You sound fine.
I
Just in case you're worried.
yeah, I genuinely. It started as soon as Echo walked on the laptop again. He pressed something, and it's been iffy since. Like it froze then, it froze again soon after,
Yeah,
and now it
that's why
froze then
I'm
as
really
well.
hoping that the audio has improved, because otherwise this is going to be really insulting. It's going to be.
Yeah, I just need to hope I don't put a really silly face as soon as it freezes, which I did the first time round. But I think we can start now. We can start talking about season
Season
5.
5. So yeah, I don't know where to start. I guess we should. I think it'd be more appropriate to what we just did was pretty scatterbrained. So I think we should just go through it basically, and then we can be a bit more freeform. But I think we should do this like as in a kind of bullet point style thing almost. Going from
Yeah.
the bottom up. That with So yes, this is starting with the list of smaller features in season 5. Which, by the way, what we got is essentially just a feature list for season 5. We didn't get like a roadmap. You know, what we got basically is what like all the previous roadmaps had been. You know, like a season roadmap is just the previous roadmaps have all just been like really loose details on just the next season, and that's it. And it was really whack. This is kind of that, but them acknowledging that that can't be a roadmap. It's just a feature list, and it's much more detailed as well than before. So I'm really just happy with like just the presentation of this. It's pretty much exactly what it should be. But yeah, so starting from the list of smaller features, not that this is a small thing, but it's the new DLC armor, a dazzling set of shiny armor that costs real life money, and you've got to keep the lights on somehow. Which I would say the only thing we need to talk about is the clarification that it's an armor. Once again, though, I think this just, adds on to the image of them having a better plan. Like it seems kind of, it might be a little bit trivial, but I still think it adds to the pile by evidence. I would say in a lot of situations they probably didn't have that thought through. They probably just started working on the DLC. Like, oh, what's it going to be? You'll figure it out. And we do it. They even know this time it's going to be an armor.
They did actually talk about this a little bit.
Yeah.
When they made the weapons, they had in mind they wanted to make the new weapons that come with a weapon paint job, like or not paint job, but the rival tech weapon set.
Yeah, but
that was purposeful.
That logic didn't really make sense though for season 5. They were like, oh, so it makes sense this time. Does it make sense this time? I'm not saying making armor set is incorrect. It's definitely not. But there's no it's not pairing with anything. I'm not sure what they meant by that.
And it is. The thing is I think we are still on the pattern. I'd have to check, but
no, I think we are.
I think we last got the disinfectant guns, and then we got the thingy. So I mean, I would have assumed we were getting armor, and we are, which is doubly cool because we have also got an armor in game, right? With the Mark 6, which obviously we've got now for the anniversary, but they made for season 5. We just get it early.
Well, I think that was important to happen as well, by the way, because I think people have been wanting a armor set in game that they can unlock for a while, a proper one as well. Not like an elf costume, okay? Right? And oh, by the way, the mere existence of Mark 6 makes me a bit more forgiving of those, by the way. I still think there is no good reason to have them color locked, and I never will think there's a good reason. I will literally, if I would fight it, I would actually physically assault anyone who tried to tell me otherwise. But still, I think the addition of the Mark 6 just makes a lot of stuff just okay, just like suddenly the costumes don't feel so wasted. Suddenly getting another DLC armor is only going to be a cool thing rather than just like, oh, there's more armor, but we have to pay for it, because we just got a free set, so it's like, and even if you didn't, it will come out alongside season 5 anyway. So
we can also make some assumptions. This is obviously something that we're gathering from something we'll talk later on, but chances are this is going to be Reclamator
Reclaimer, Tyler,
right?
You've got the fucking Reclamator in your head. Yeah, so that's actually really interesting. I would say, no, I don't know if that's an interesting debate for us, but it might be more of an interesting debate for them. It's like, oh, should we use the Dwarven Reclaimer armor? Should we give it to these fucking idiot dwarfs? I don't know, but yeah, especially as a DLC, a DLC is able to break those kind of boundaries,
Plus, you could easily justify it in that, they know that there are higher quality dwarves out there, so they're cosplaying as them with off-brand armor to try and
it could even be off-brand, but I also believe that the Reclaimers would outsource their armor to DRG, because I think the Reclaimers, I think they're actually part of DRG, but they also might be I think the best of the best. I think the Dwarven Reclaimers as a faction have been employed by DRG, but I think they are their own thing as well, kind of. And I can imagine them making their own armor and then also selling it to DRG, for the lower tier employees. So I get it, because they probably have a forge on their ship where they're making it. That would be okay. I don't want to. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. They have a dwarven forge on their ship. That, Jesus Christ. Imagine that.
Planetary. we already have a forge on the hub,
I mean,
but
more like a more
uh,
dwarven forge, like almost though,
like a
like a
giant
pit of
magma,
lava.
like
Yeah,
yeah, like but no, yeah, I think that's a fairly safe bet going off. The DLC is normally very related to the theme at hand, right? Like that's a rule of thumb, I would say, isn't it? With the obviously the rival ones, the disinfectant one, stuff like that.
yeah. We
So
never
there's
got
a
the
good chance
rival
of that.
armor though, did we?
No, we did not. Sad face. But I would imagine the Reclaimer armor is going to look pretty damn slick, and
Yeah.
like probably more like expensive looking. I would imagine. Since yeah, they're not the disposable dwarfs, so I assume their armor is not the disposable armor. So it should look really cool. Even if it isn't that, it's armor. At the end of the day, armor is fucking sick, right? I think like I prefer armor to frameworks ultimately. I
Um.
think
Yeah.
mainly because I care about the
DLC
way my dwarves
wise,
look
DLC wise,
more
I do. I
than
agree with
my
you.
yeah. Yeah, although DLC frameworks are still pretty damn good, but I think in-game ones can easily be just as good. But I guess not the point. The point is we kind of knew we were getting a DLC. They always do it with every season, but we know it's an armor one now, which we could have guessed, but now we don't have to guess. I think is the best takeaway
Exactly.
there, really. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next point, I guess, right?
Yeah, we're gonna jump up to
The
because we don't need to talk about like this
A
is
bunch
just
of
technical
technical
shit.
jizz.
Yeah, tech jizz,
Um,
but we don't care, right? I don't know. The game's gonna run better.
yeah.
Is it though? Is it though? I feel like this stuff usually doesn't come to fruition. Do you know what I mean? Because it's kind of just always bogged down in new things that sort of compromise the game's performance. So
Yeah,
I
well,
think
I think
it's
that's probably why
in
they're
my
doing this.
opinion, I think it's literally just them saying we're still going to be trying to like make it work well. We're not like abandoning. We're not like not thinking about it. We're still thinking about making it run well. Okay, leave us alone.
Yeah.
That's what it is to me. I guess the NVIDIA DLSS3 integration is more specific. I don't know what that is though. You know, I guess it's more like a
Yeah, I
more
have no
specific
idea.
thing that is going to have a objective effect. But look, we're not talking. We're not going to talk about that. Okay.
Especially when something right up our alley is just
Right
above it.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of like system like overhauls that are happening.
Yeah.
It's like, well, remember when I made that point about how I think it was Anders who said that there's a chance that something like the perk rework could have to be done over multiple seasons. Well, it made me realize that we have an example of that already, which is they have been sort of gradually um overhauling like the cosmetic systems over the seasons, and it has been working. And I think this is probably the um most extreme
Blatant.
one, maybe,
Yeah.
in terms of the systems.
I
Obviously,
guess
adding the
we
sleeveless
should
armor
say
was a
it.
really cool addition. Yeah, cosmetic filtering. It's pretty
Yeah.
ambiguous as to what as the details to like keep your wardrobe better organized. Use filters to sort your stuff by category. I say the ambiguous thing is what do we mean by categories exactly? Because obviously everything's already sorted into
I
what slot it takes up. So it's like what are the categories, like seasons or things like that. We don't quite know.
I hope that and I know it doesn't say it, but I hope that you get to be the one that does the filtering. That's what I'm kind of hoping for. Is that like I don't because the way their example, their light example I recall, was like what Mikov said. Like he wanted to filter out all the silly hats so he could find the more sci-fi dwarven cooler
Well, he
ones.
mentioned it
Right? That's what he
specifically
said.
through with like the randomization button as well. Like you could, as in that would
Yeah,
be
yeah,
you could
yeah.
set
So
filters for that,
you
which I think is awesome. By the way,
Yeah,
um,
you get more. Yeah, because I think that's what it is basically. Is that like when you randomize, or I guess when you like look, you could see those ones first, and maybe the other ones are like grayed out or hidden. Um, like you only see the ones you want to see, which makes me think you definitely can do something about it yourself. Like you can like make it visible or not visible, I assume. But I want to know like if is it like you categorize them yourself, like you
mm,
decide what's a silly hat, what's a not silly hat, and then like that's like a category, if you know what I mean.
yeah.
Like there's like the silly hats, holiday hats, which maybe you don't get to pick. That's just there. And like some of them are forced. Some of them are going to be like the DLC hats, right? That's going to be its own thing.
So
Already is,
you're
right?
suggesting that you should be able to create the categories entirely because I don't think that's going to be the case. I think there will
No,
probably be a
not.
thing. I think there'll probably be a thing where you
There
get
will
to
be the
pick that you.
categories.
I think you'll be able
You
to
get
like
to pick
blacklist
what's
ones
in them.
yourself. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Actually, yeah. That I
That's
can
what I
see
was
that.
thinking.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Like it'll be like I don't know, like
It could almost
bunch
be
of
like
icons essentially.
loadouts. You know, you could
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like that would be like the icons. Like you would click on like the silly icon, and it would be only the things that you've classified as silly, which would be like this, the balloon 6 top hat. Right, that's pretty damn silly. That would go into the silly file. That would get filtered out, and I'll never have to look at it again. Right, that kind of thing. I look forward to that actually quite a lot. Not that I pay much attention to the silly ones, but at least it clears out it a fair bit, right? Because that's obviously why they said they were doing it. There's like 140 something. He said,
I think
Nichols
I
said.
believe it was
Uh,
144, which sounds quite specific because I'm pretty sure that's how many overclocks there should be. But still, yeah, something like that.
they're only going to be more when they actually release season 5.
Yeah,
So it's kind
exactly.
of like they've had to do something about it, and this is what they've decided. And as long as I think, yeah, you get to stuff. Maybe it can be as like eventually it or like the minimal is you can just turn some off. Like if you specifically do not like that one hat, you can get rid of it from like
Well, that's
your thing.
kind of what
Like that's
I'm leaning toward. I'm leaning toward. I think what you said is a good idea, but I think it's going to be mostly predetermined. Except you'll have the option when you're unfiltered to still like blacklist items you don't want to be like included. Or there could be like a
yeah.
custom category.
If
I
your
think the
personal
categories are
block,
going to be defined by them, but I think there might still be a personal aspect where you can, either through an unfiltered,
yeah.
even when when you're unfiltered or like a custom filtered category where you can just choose things you don't want in it, or vice versa. But I think it might be, and that could even come later. It might start fairly predetermined, and through feedback we could get like that kind of thing. But kind of
I
doesn't
feel like that
matter.
is a
It's still,
system
I think it
that
does. Okay, it
if
does matter. I
they
think your idea is very good, but it's still a good move in
if
general.
if they themselves decide what is and isn't silly, there will be a lot of patches that sort that out, right? A
Yes.
lot of people are going to be like, "Excuse me, the plague mask without the hat is quite silly. Put it in the silly category." And other people are like, "No,
Oh
don't do that. It's a
God.
plague mask." But it's
Okay.
like, but it
If
looks really silly without a hat.
I see where
And
you're
then you've
going.
signed yourself up for that.
Yeah.
So if you
Yeah.
just give the people like those people their own ones, like this is very silly. This is not that silly, then it's kind of like out of Ghost Ship's hand. They don't have to get bogged down on what people think is silly and not silly. Um, so I think
Yeah.
that's an idea. Plus,
No, I
they
think
only
you
ever
got
talked
it.
about headgear specifically, but I assume this is going to be a feature for everything, right? Like they only said headgears, like as an example.
Yeah, I think it's just an
But
example. I think it would. I think it would be specific. I think it would say headgears
you
if it was
really need
just
it.
headgears.
Gears.
Um,
Um,
yeah,
yeah.
colors, beards.
I guess if you wanted to get rid of like purple, or like the bright green for a more
Oh,
serious randomizer thing,
well, armor paint
then
jobs is because that's a bigger category. I was thinking of the bigger
that
categories,
too
which is
actually, yeah.
armor paint jobs and beards, are like the bigger categories. Aside from headgear. So yeah, I think it's going to
Yeah, so
be
there is
and
uses
victory moves.
outside of
Victory
that.
moves is actually quite a big category as well. And I think because victory moves specifically is always that's been like a discussion I think before. It's like whether randomize victory
It
moves, you
has
should
a
be able to
random,
choose.
but
You should be able to choose
yeah,
what's in the randomized button, like in the random victory move. So
yeah. Which
I
this
think
I guess would do now.
yeah, I think it's going to be for every. I think it's going to be for every item. I think they're gonna. I think it's gonna be fairly thorough. I don't think it would be a big point otherwise. I don't think
I think it's
they've
gonna
never had
be
this as a major point, before in this kind of sense.
I think it's gonna lead to some interesting results where people are gonna try and really whittle down like the most serious, best looking cosmetics and then randomize, and then they're still gonna look bad, like stuff like that, or like they might stumble across something really good or some shit. But I look forward to controlled randomization for dwarves looks. I look forward to like what that's gonna do, and it's gonna be like so many dwarves are gonna look like just okay, and it's gonna be really odd. But either way. I hope they add some more loadouts with that.
Yeah, I
you
mean,
know,
come on,
go
guys.
check that on.
I think
Um,
the thing about loadouts, don't we like know that there's no technical limitation there, right? Don't we just know that they
they
could just
said
do
they
it?
said there is nothing stopping them. Yeah, that they could add literally as many as they want.
6 is such a stupid.
Which is why,
Just make it 10. Just
which is why
make
I
it
said,
10. Okay.
that's why I said, let the players add as many as they want. Well, probably about call it whenever it reaches the end, right? I don't know how many that would be, like 25 or something. But like, if the player only wants like a couple to keep it really,
Yeah,
slipstream, then
yeah.
they can do that.
You could bring it
Or if
down
they
to
want to
one
be a
if you
little
wanted
smart,
to.
if they want like a build for like every single build they have, and each of them have different looks and all that stuff, I won't say I wouldn't like to do. Then they can do that. I think that's a pretty good idea too. But obviously, that's not something they said is in this update, but it's also not something they say they wouldn't do, right? I think that's the kind of content that they wouldn't have decided on, but they might be like, you know what? I think this benefits, especially with all the new overclocks as well. Actually, more overclocks and a quite strong overhaul to the
Yeah,
customization
it's going to
system
be hard to fit
more
in
than warrants it.
because
More
I know
loadouts.
chance just through sheer novelty and also just like the trust that they will be all pretty good. I can imagine myself wanting a loadout for all of them. All new
Yeah,
overclocks.
exactly. Which I already do, but I struggle with the some that have more than six. But now
Yeah, you might have to
most of
start
them are going
making
to have more than
sacrifices,
six.
Tyler. You know.
Exactly, which I don't want to do. Let me have more loadout. Like what I'm saying is, I definitely think more loadouts is warranted, and I think if they think of it, they'll probably add it. But they might not think of it. But I'm positing that now. I think that it's definitely fair, and then preferably don't just add one more. Just go the whole hog, make it 10. Call it a day. I think at that point.
Yeah, one.
Um,
Well, I don't think one. I think seven's a really nonsense number. Really for
yeah,
that kind of thing. It's got to be 10. Either make it 10 or do what Tyler said. But 10, maybe just make it 10. Maybe could just simplify it. You're not going to really need more
yeah,
than 10. At least you might want more than 10. Okay, Tyler. But frankly,
yeah.
10 is always
You
going to be
don't need it.
reasonable. It's like, even
You
if
will
you
be
could
able
argue
to
for
have
more, even
one
if
of
you personally as a player could justify having more loadouts, 10 is always going to be a reasonable number. It's never
yeah.
going to be like, you can't like make an objective argument. It's like, oh, 10 is pathetic. No, it's just objectively reasonable. But 6 is also very easy to argue as too little, especially if we're getting more overclocks.
At this point
Um,
now, yeah.
yeah,
Having more overclocks for most weapons than loadouts, I think, is flawed. So yeah, and with the new thingy, it just
exactly.
works.
12,
But yeah,
12
that's
overclocks is double the number of loadouts.
yeah, um,
Although I guess it's only 3 per class.
yeah.
So we need 9
Which means that
loadouts.
you
We
would,
need...
and if you put that new one on all the dwarves, you would still need another loadout to at least one more loadout to have it on everything, for most things. But I think we spent enough time talking about that because that stretched into something else. But I do think that loadouts are going to be warranted in season 5. And I think if you want to keep padding out season 5 being an absolute banger, more loadouts is a very, very good job
Pew,
at
pew,
doing
pew,
that.
pew,
It
pew.
was always loved when they add more loadouts. Um, but for everyone, right? The build people who love making builds can now make a lot more builds and store them all. The fucking dwarf fashion designers can have more canvases now, right? And
I'm
it's just, I
both,
don't know,
by the
yeah,
way.
just,
I'm a very, very strong both of those things.
yeah.
Very much so. But
So please, 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 please. Next topic.
please. Yeah, next topic.
Oh,
No. New dance moves. Um,
this
aren't
is
they?
this is one of them. This
What are
dance
you
move right
doing?
here.
Careful.
I'm doing a very low effort, like disco one.
They gotta do the where they do the cross the knees.
Yeah, that would be good.
Come on. Come on.
Unfortunately,
And a
there's one
sprinkler.
thing that
Sprinkler.
there's one
And a
thing we know
default
we're getting, or
dance. Well, not
at
default
the very
dance.
least,
Yeah,
they've
twerking was
confirmed that they were
mentioned.
designing it. Dwarf twerking may be a feature in season 5, and let me just say, God did not put us on on this earth to do that.
None of those words are in the
We
Bible.
will we will pay for our hubris, and I look forward to watching the dwarf twerk. So I think that's most of what we can say on that matter. Other than maybe while you're adding more dance moves, add them as victory moves.
Well, you see, adding them as victory moves doesn't work, does it? You have to add like a
Why not?
finisher, the move, right?
No,
Well,
well, they come out of the dance move anyway, right? When the dancing stops, they
yeah,
have
but
to stop
there isn't
dancing.
there isn't really an animation for it. They don't just teleport into being dancing, but they kind of just snap into it. Like it's not really there's not really an animated transition from standard you know standing to dancing and then back to just standing. Um, I don't know, but
Then
I
I
think
guess
it should
add
inspire.
that.
I don't look, Tyler. I don't want a twerking victory move. Okay, I don't.
I do.
I know you
I didn't even
do.
think about that.
Well, what? How did you not
Hell
think
yeah!
about that? Okay,
I
all I'll
want to
say
see
is
a
the
level
default dance is
4,000.
the Fortnite default dance is a perfect victory move though. I'll say that much.
I want to see a level 4,000 scout join our
I want to see
game, kick
Cation
everyone
join our
asses,
game.
and get more kills than everyone. And then I want to see that motherfucker twerk his way out of our lobby and then leave, and we never see them again. That would be the best shit ever.
All right, I'm with you now. Okay. Well, there'll be more victory moves in the in the past, so don't worry about
Yeah,
it. Well, maybe do worry about
two
it.
birds, one stone. You know what I mean? You've just made a bunch of dwarf twerking dance moves. You might as well just transfer that over victory moves. Two
Yeah, but
birds,
they've
boom.
started to really like using props in victory moves though.
They have it. The victory moves have been pretty damn
Then
good.
maybe we should get a
There's still been
pole.
there's
A,
still that
a
one
dancing. Maybe we should get a pole in the dance on the dance floor.
that the hacker add that they have yet to add.
Yeah.
Right, the
Well,
sprinkle
wasn't it like
one.
Chinese or something? Wasn't it?
I
How
don't
they
think
always
so. I
get
think
like exclusive stuff.
not. He had the Halloween headgear like a month before Halloween.
I know. I
Like,
know. Crazy
but
fucker.
yeah. All right. I guess that's for dance moves, which now
Can I go
means
to
we're
the
on the
toilet?
meteor topic. You can, Harry. I'll allow it.
Part two.
The
But the
important shit.
sequel is better than the original. Do we still want to go in reverse order? Because the first thing is probably the weirdest thing, I guess.
I mean, we can go in normal order now.
I don't want to though.
We're in the juice. We're slathered in juice right now. This is the juice stuff.
Covered in honey and tar, both of them.
Yeah,
I am so
and
flammable right now.
we put on a boat, and then we're tied down, and there are flies eating our insides. Fun little torture method there. Anyway,
Do you know what rat torture is?
you get put in a rubber room.
No,
Rubber room filled with rats.
no, it's much worse than whatever you're about to say. I think.
All right. No, I do think we should go the normal way around with this stuff.
But you put like a bucket on your chest, and they put a rat in the bucket, and then they start like they'll heat up the bucket. They'll put like a blowtorch into the bucket, and the rat will try to escape. And it realizes that the only way to get out is through you.
That's hot, dude.
Yeah, they did it in Fast and Furious too. They didn't. Okay.
No, the fuck they didn't.
Top down then. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So yeah, this is the juice. Not all of it is stuff you wouldn't expect. Obviously, two of these points are just like standard shit. But I think the first one is the one with an essence of detail. But we kind of already knew it. The new theme, which okay, I'll be honest, I was hoping for a bit more decision on what that theme is really. Like I was partially even hoping for like the season name, but maybe that's ridiculous when I think about it. It's never revealed that early on. But considering how much they have planned already, I thought maybe something. I don't know, but we do know at least it's really been nailed in that it is a prelude to Rogue Core. Prelude could mean a lot of things. We don't know how before it is really. We don't know if it's themed around what happens in Rogue Core, or it's just themed around what happens before Rogue Core. It's basically what you're responding to in Rogue Core. They said something about like the blackout or whatever it was.
Well, it was like the operations. They started digging deeper into Hoxie's because they found a new mineral, Exponite, right? And then they built up operations there, and then all of a sudden, gone. Everything went silent, dead in like the deeper area, and that's when they send the reclaimers in. So it's the question of at what point in time during that series of events is this going to be in? Are we the people first in the deeper discovering the Expedite? Has Expedite been discovered and we're setting up the operations? Has the operations already been set up and it's about to go dark? But I think that going dark is going to be the latest. We're not going to be there for when it goes dark.
I
That'll
mean,
be the events
will that even
of
happen
Roadcore.
in game? You know, like, will that be represented
I
in Deep Rock? Because they kind
I
of they haven't
believe
really done
totally it
anything
is.
like that. It could be like an assignment. You know how like in you know how in season 4 with for the assignments they had like the thing of one of the space rigs gets destroyed, but it's like it's just a voice line. It could be like that, kind of. Obviously, it'll be more important when in Roadcore itself, when it's not the launch pad for what actually happens in Roadcore. But like in Deep Rock itself, it could be done like that way. Well, the blackout kind of happens in a way that it happens, but you are still in some way able to continue doing what you're doing. It's just like it just happened to like a number of
I think
certain like outposts or whatever or
I
operations.
I I would go as far that it's because you know how like Deep Rock's kind of in a pocket of time, really. Like time isn't actually passing, but it also stuff is occurring, isn't it? Like they're kind of the rivals have attacked. That implies periods of time. The rivals have backed off, and the Rockbox is attacked, and now the Rockbox is probably going to be the least of our concerns, right? It implies time is moving forward, but it realistically isn't. I don't think the characters are aging. I don't think anything's really evolving in the greater world or anything.
Well,
Um,
we don't know when Mission Control's
so
nephew was born. But we
I
know he
think
has
we're
one.
probably just gonna, yeah, it's probably just gonna be that we're gonna be ending up in the bubble of time when the operations are up, but before the end. I can assume that for the existence of Deep Rock Galactic, the original game,
Pardon me.
they will always be set just before everything goes dark. Anything that happens during the entire thing happens before the events of Rogue Core
Yeah,
forever,
and for as long as
basically.
season five
Is how I
lasts, for as long as
think it.
season 5 lasts, we're just in that bubble. Even if Roadcore's out, it doesn't matter, right? Is that what you're saying? And then
I'm saying
we'll
like for the
only
rest of
move
time.
on from that point. We'll only move on from that point in season 5 when season 6 starts. But
I
that
don't no.
doesn't.
I think season six, Rogue Core still wouldn't have occurred yet. Like the blackout will never occur during the events of Deep Rock Galactic.
What?
It'll be the exponent. Well, because right, if we picture this right, first of all, it's all exponite activity near the core gets ended. There's no ifs, ands, or buts, right? Like anything nearer the core gets fucking wiped out, right? That's how the story is being told. So if the blackout occurs, if this new mission is related to Exponite, which we are assuming it is, this mission should no longer be available, right? That would be it over, right? And it's like, see ya. And it's just I don't think they're gonna do that. So I think it's a lot better, smarter to basically just
Better, smarter.
like be that Rogue Core is in the next pocket time, which is in the indeterminate amount of time after Deep Rock Galactic, the original game, occurs. I think it'll be the easiest thing to prevent like plot holes or like just messiness generally. The only thing is that like if you add anything in Deep Rock that you would expect to see in Rogue Core, then it'll be like what's going on there? Like if we get a new enemy type like pool, it's called the smell cards, right? And they're a
Sorry,
bunch of little goblins. They're a bunch of little goblins that reek, right? And they're everywhere in the caves,
the
and that's in Deep Rock,
Reeklings.
but they don't have that. Yeah, yeah. Hey. Um, they add that to like Deep Rock, but they don't add it to Rogue Core. It's then like, oh, but why aren't they in Rogue Core? Like you could that's like the worst it's gonna get. But if like I don't know, I don't see the blackout
Um,
occurring
if I
in
could
Deep Rock ever.
Well, I think it would happen. Like, basically, the implication would be once season 6 comes around that the Reclaimers have basically got things up to a workable level where they can send
Oh,
normal
what you
DLG employees in again, and it just happens
so you see it as
between the release of Rogue Core in season 6. The problem's essentially been resolved, but they're still sending in the Reclaimers and normal dwarfs. basically, and it's just like, and it's because I think they would. I
You
don't. I
see
don't
the
think they're going to have
events.
them be separate in that way. I don't think season 6 is going to take place. I don't think Road Core is an all set timeline. I think it's going to work, but I just think it's going to
No,
be.
dude, you
They're just going to do
no.
something. They're just going to make it work. They're just.
Yeah, but it's a different game, right? If
Yes.
season 6 had to be the continuation of Rokor's stuff, then sure, but it doesn't. Season 5 can be the implementation of Expedite, and the Deep Rock, the company, is now digging that deep below and never touch it again. Because all it needs to say is they're doing that now, and then Rogue Core picks up, like in an indefinite amount of time later, saying something went wrong. Uh-oh. like that's how I see it. But you see Rogue Core being the entire game of Rogue Core will happen in between season 5 and season 6. Is that what you're saying?
Well, no. Road Core will have its own like chronology that works with Deep Rock, right? There will just be this point. Season 6 will just represent a point of time in both where the Reclaimers have, fixed the problem, but they're still going to be doing whatever they were doing. The work carries on, whatever they were doing after that point. But it's essentially that's just Deep Rock saying that what you're doing in Road Core has worked, but it doesn't mean you're going to stop doing what you're doing in Road Core. They're still allowed to keep that operation going, but it just means that the problem's been solved. That's my idea. I don't know. Clearly, we're not sure about this either.
We are not on the same wavelength.
No, but we're probably not on the same way. We're probably definitely not on the same wavelength as Ghost Ship, because they probably haven't thought about it yet. Let's be honest.
Or at least they definitely haven't come to a conclusion.
No, which is why I am really interested in what the relationship will be between Rocore and Deep Rock when major releases happen, when both things coexist. Like, what will anything happen to or in Deep Rock when Rocore comes out? Will there be anything that happens when a major update is dropped for either game after that point as well? There must be some kind of relationship there. I'm not saying you're literally going to get an update when Rocore gets an update in Deep Rock. I don't think that, but there's going to be a relationship there, and I want to see how it actually plays out. Because I don't think they're just going to be disconnected after Rocore comes out.
I just read Rogue Core is going to be like a sequel, but because Deep Rock will never really end, it's a sequel after an indeterminate amount of time. That's how I read it. I didn't think that they would actually be happening at the same time. I didn't read it in that way, like, at all. Which I don't know, is interesting, if anything.
Maybe there is an alternate timeline.
Yeah.
Maybe they get sent into parallel universe.
No, there's no need. There's no need for an alternate timeline. But that's what I'm saying. It's just that you can have the events of Rocore always happen after Deep Rock. That you can just always say that. Always at any given moment.
I just don't
Deep
see
Rock.
how that's possible if season 5 is a prelude to Rocore, but season 6 isn't going to be as well. I don't understand.
Yeah, season 6 moves on. Season 6 is unrelated. Things continue as usual. Nothing has occurred for as far as Deep Rock Galactic.
What you're actually saying is that Rogue Core is going to be stuck in a moment of time forever. Really?
No. You're saying
yes. No.
You're saying that it will be set in the event of time. No, yeah, you are. You're saying that it will be set between season 5 and season 6. That's what you're saying. The events of Rogue Core will be set between. You want it, the incident will occur halfway through season 5, and then they would have solved it by season 6, right? That's what you're saying. Which implies that anytime anyone loads into Rogue Core and the situation hasn't been resolved yet, or it probably won't ever be resolved in Rogue Core, it'll be trapped in between those two seasons. But with my one, it's just infinite. Both sides can continue to do whatever the fuck it wants, essentially.
Yeah, I just don't.
Then if they implement anything into Rogue Core, that would have occurred between season 5 and season 6. Which by season 7, if apparently there has been this new enemy type in the game for like the last 2 seasons, but it hasn't been because that's just been in road core, it would just not make much sense. I don't know. I think we are thinking about this way too much.
I think, Tyler, I think our idea of what we're saying is actually flipped. I think what we're thinking we're saying is what the other person is actually saying. Genuinely. I think we're fucked up. I think we're.
I don't. I don't.
Because I genuinely think you are objectively saying that Rotor will be stuck in a time bubble, and I'm saying the complete opposite.
No, I'm saying that like Galactic is occurring here, and then Rotor is next. Whenever that is. Like, the incident occurs off-screen at some point in time after the events of Deep Rock Galactic, and that starts the events of Rotor.
But
like,
we know that it happens before Season 6. Because Season 6 won't be a prelude to Rotor as well.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean it's going to be a continuation of Rotor.
No, I'm not saying it. I'm not saying it will be. It definitely won't be.
They discover Expedite. They start adventuring into the caves, into the core. Right? That's it. That's all you need.
I get what you're saying. No, I get it. I think I get it now, but I don't think it makes sense still. You're saying that season 5 is technically a prelude to Rotor, but that doesn't mean Rotor is starting like during season 5.
No, it means that if you never like touch it again in the Deep Rock Galactic franchise, as long as it will continue, they are still digging in the core. But then, at an indeterminate amount of time in the future, the event occurs which starts Road Core. Like, if season 6 just moves on, like nothing changes and everything works pretty cleanly. Because I don't think season 6 is going to be a continuation.
No, neither do I. I understand exactly what you're saying. I just think it's stupid. And you're right. No, I don't.
Yours is way more stupid.
Maybe it is. I'm not saying mine's the way they're going to do it. I just think yours definitely isn't. I think we clearly need to move on from this because we don't know. We just don't know, and it's fun to speculate.
I think alternate timeline is quite likely as far as Ghost Ship's concerned, right? That it's going to be like an alternate branch that when something bad occurs, that like the events of Rotor will never affect the events of Deep Rock because that stuff never happened in Deep Rock, but it has affected stuff in Rotor.
I mean, they'll say what they will about how flexible they are. They're not flexible enough to keep both games in the same narrative point. They're just not. They can't do that. Which means it needs to be constructed in a way that allows for it, which I guess that's what you're saying. You're more so saying that than I was, I guess. So good work.
You're welcome.
Pretty much. Yeah. You're welcome who? You're welcome me, you're welcome Ghost Ship.
Both.
Oh.
Take my idea, Ghost Ship.
Alright.
It's easier on everyone.
It is. It is. Speaking of not taking our ideas, but taking the right ideas, and turning them into cool things. The main thing, the main piece of content of season 5 is going to be a new mission type. And my God, is it just a nice thing to see written out? Just after, I don't know, 2022 and 2023 just not having anything like that. It's just God. Christ. And then and there it is. What do we know? It involves searching and it is adjacent to Mine Expedition, as Mikkel clarified. Which is like exactly what it's supposed to be. I don't remember how soon we realised this was the case. I think we spent a lot of time just shitting on Industrial Sabotage and Escort Duty, but not really establishing what the right direction is. I think we got it at some point, but it wasn't as early on as it should have been. That the game needs a mission type that,
It's designed to be replayed.
It's a mission type
Like,
that gets you over those ones. You know, they're clearly fucked, right? Especially escort duty. They might just be fucked. And that's not good, but that doesn't mean we can't move forward with something, a new good thing. And I think that's the point here. Especially because it's not
yeah.
just sticking itself within those, you know, periods of deep rock. You know, it has to be a
I think
new mission type. Yes.
this is something they didn't say, but I think would have really told a story is if they had said whether or not it would have been it's in assignments instantly. And I don't just mean like like a special at the
Mm.
end because that thing was with the industrial sabotage was for like the industrial sabotage assignment. Um, but like if it is a part of the normal game instantly, that bodes so much more well than it being a special outlier.
Well,
Like
so there is
it
the
was
question
it
of
was
though,
over.
should it just be designed? Could it be excluded from assignments even if it could be in assignments? You know what I mean?
I think as long as it's designed to be in assignments, I think that's fine.
Yeah, but I think if it
Plus,
is, if it's good enough to
I would
be, it
say,
should be, because this is one of your biggest problems with the game. Is
yeah,
when you get the mission, the mission that you fucking despise in an assignment, having a new one having the chance for a new one to be in there, even if it's not replacing escort duty, that's probably going to improve the situation
plus,
somewhat, isn't it? I definitely, even if
plus,
it's like,
if the mission is good enough to be in a game mode, people would want it not
assignment.
game mode, an assignment.
Yeah,
People would want it to be in an assignment because if it's not, people won't play it as much, right? It's just a
exactly.
fact.
Yeah.
Like if they're not in assignments, you have so little reason to do it, especially if it's not a double XP. Why would you do a mission that isn't an assignment and not a double XP or like Mineral Mania? There's no reason to be doing any of those
Well,
missions.
okay,
Um,
there will be, because there will be a daily challenge for it. We'll talk about daily challenges, but there will
yes,
be at least
but
that.
that's
And a
the
milestone.
least.
But I know, I know.
Yeah,
You're
that's
right.
like
You're
the
right.
bare minimum thing.
It
So
has to
I
be in
think if you
assignments.
just if it was made to facilitate assignments, just put it in assignments and people will play it whether or not they want to. And I think so from what we've heard, this is going to be good, or at least it's going to be a lot closer to what we think is good than what they started with like industrial sabotage. Like it really feels like they picked the least good parts of the stuff they worked on before it and then built it up to a mission so big they couldn't justify putting it in assignments and then tried forcing its way into it. And I think that was a huge fuck up, which I don't think they're going to make again. Right? They
No.
very much seem to be very aware that they can't pull something like that again. Um, so yeah, I think this new like not assignment game mode is in good hands. I think we are very much at liberty to get hyped up for it, and anyone that thinks that they're in for like another industrial sabotage can just throw themselves off a bridge. At that point, really, like I don't know, silly silly people. Have you actually heard that take like on the Steam comments that like people
I
assume
think I've
all game
seen
modes suck?
just about a bit of everything. You know. Wait,
Right.
what? That what sucks?
That like the new game mode's gonna suck because like
Oh,
just for
I think
sabotage.
so. I think so. Yeah, yeah. And it's just that though. By the way, that I can't blame them as much for that as certain other things though, because really, what reason do they have to know that they've said those things? You know, not
Well, this is where
much,
I'm gonna
not a
just
great deal.
mention that while in the dev stream he did specifically
I know, and this
say
is a
what
bigger
kind of
dev stream. That's the
yeah
point. It's an
bigger,
anniversary
but
stream.
still ultimately very very like a lot smaller than last year.
Look at the
Um,
have a look at the views.
yeah, I guess maybe views onwards. But during the stream, I checked like a couple times, and it was about 500 on both platforms, Twitch and YouTube. Which, considering last year, I think it was sitting about 2K on YouTube, and I didn't check Twitch. I I mean, it's not surprising. I guess we'll get that out of the way. But
Got
it's pretty
16,000
concerning.
views right now. The live
That's
stream.
good. That is I guess that would be people cycling out and obviously retroactive. Probably helps that it's not the longest live stream in the world. But it's still less views than like that guy who did the review of season 5, or not review of season, but
Yeah.
the yeah,
Who are
that
you talking
actually
about?
I forgot his name. It's like
Well, I
Javrek or
know he is.
something.
His name's Javrak. I think I don't actually know for
Close.
certain. Um,
But that is where most
Javik.
people are going to get in the news from, and hopefully, I mean, he might have mentioned what kind of assignment to expect, but if he didn't, then
Mission type.
um,
Oh,
but that's the one. Um, but I don't know. I think we are very much at liberty to start getting excited for that mission type. I think that is
yeah.
going to be really fun. Um,
In my opinion, from the way that you
like playing
described
a
it,
classic feeling
it's
one.
going to be like in a pretty like large cave or cave system, not necessarily like a linear one. Like I was kind of hoping for it to be very close to Mine Expedition. Like you'd sort of be going through cave that's
You wanted a
fairly
beginning and
linear.
end, didn't you?
Yeah, I think I did, but from the way it sounds, I mean, it could involve both. I'd love to see a mission type that is able to use like really extremely different cave types. But my understanding of it, based on what you said, is sort of it's going to be like you're going to be looking for something that you're not necessarily going to have assistance in finding. So often you have some kind of prompt on the map, and I don't think we're going to have that this time. I think we're really going to, and it's also good, but it's not going to be exactly like Morkai either. I assume you are going to. I think we're assuming it's Expedite, and I think we're assuming that you're going to have to extract it in some particular way. But it's going to be a relatively free-form mission in terms of finding the things themselves. But I assume you're going to need some kind of special kind of equipment. Someone suggested that if there is some kind of specific equipment involved, it would more so be a scanner that helps you find the Expedite when you're near it, more so, rather than needing a specific equipment to mine it. I think. But I don't know. Really, all you need though out of a mission type to make it what it should be is it is very close to what made it has all the things that made the first sort of lot of game types really perfect for deep rock, but still has enough distinct elements that it stands out, but not that they, impact the gameplay too much either. It needs to stand out, but the gameplay needs to be very freeform at the same time. Because that's what makes those other game types so good, But it's still
They need to,
we're
yeah.
assuming it is going to be themed as well. It's going to be a themed piece of content for the season, relatively speaking. So it needs to have things that make it stand out as well, but it still needs to be simple because that's where the good gameplay comes from. I can imagine it's quite a difficult balancing act to make it really feel like a proper new edition, but I don't think it's going to be as hard as
crass way of putting it. I think would be that they need to back the fuck off, right? I think the best missions is when you're not being constantly told what to do at every single step, or like needing to be told what to do at every single step. Like seriously, like don't in industrial sabotage. Basically, every single thing you do, like mission control has to run it by you or like tell you what to do at each step, right? Like you're summoning the hacking thing. He tells you to connect the hacking thing and like all that stuff, and then eventually he tells you, you take the batteries out. I think he does that, right? Like he
Yeah, it's
basically
like
runs you
literally
through
you
it.
get everything, and I really hope they don't fall into the trap of thinking that a mission type, for it to feel like a proper new mission type, then it needs that kind of detailed like method behind what you're doing. It really just
'Cause
doesn't.
I think it might be the same in escort duty. At least it probably not as bad, but I think once you reach the stone, I think he talks again, or like I think maybe when you need to refuel, he'll talk.
Yeah, every time it
But
stops. Yeah.
yeah, but in oil refinery, I mean, like how bad is it on that? Like he says it at the beginning what you got to do, but he probably won't talk again, ignoring swarms obviously
Well, no. It's that when
until
you call down a pump
connected
jack,
everything, right?
he'll mention it and probably mention that you need to connect it, and then he'll also mention
Right.
once you have connected it. And once you've also completed all of them, there'll be a separate line telling you to start the actual process. He'll mention whenever there's like the breaks happen as well, but you could
Yes, yeah,
argue that
because it
even
is
that's a
still
bit
more
much,
complicated. Yeah, but it's still obviously done better. But I do think that's a problem with the more modern stuff. I mean, you can use the exact same thing with the miner's manual. Is a very very clear example if you want to visually see it. The Morkite miner's manual is like go in cave, mine Morkite, deposit more
I
kite,
don't know if it's that
leave
one.
cave.
It might be that one. Where one of them, it's almost like they had to make up a step. You know, like a lot
Yeah,
of the
it's like
like industrial sabotage, for example, is not going to tell you that one of the steps of the mission is to press the extract button on Molly,
yeah,
because you just don't. It will be just you don't need that.
you can't
Yet
fit
they
it.
added that
Like
in like for like Mine Expedition, for example, so it could have 4
yeah, there
steps.
is so
You know,
much filler in like those first couple game modes in the miner's manual. Yet like later
but they
on, they
still
can't
have
even
less
afford to
steps.
tell
You
you
know,
about extraction or anything. Like it's like yeah, it's um it's quite silly goofy, and I feel like if they catch themselves with this new game mode, making sure that they don't need the mission control. As much as we all love his voice and are used to it by now, we shouldn't have to have mission control like telling us what to do every single time we do anything. It's
yeah.
like, okay, you've done this, now do this next thing. Okay, you've done that, now do this next thing. Hey, Team Swarm, and the next thing. Like, it's like, come on,
Mm.
calm it down. Like,
That okay,
do you
hold
know how
on. I think
quiet he
I
is
hadn't
other
thought
than
about this.
swarms in
So
Warcry?
how the mission handles swarms is actually going to be important. It's just going to be a mission type that allows for special swarms. You know, there's only two.
Yeah, that'd be
There's
cool.
only two, and it's Mine Expedition and On-site
Or,
Refining. Point
you know,
Extraction
is it going to
has
be
dreadnoughts, but that's it. It doesn't have any others. Is this going to allow for all the different types of swarms? It should. It should.
yeah,
If you
preferably?
get a lithophage outbreak on this new mission type, which you should be able to do as well, you should be able to get rockpox swarms, for example. You should be able to get
But you can get that
any
anyway, right?
permutation of it. You should be able to get no because they removed that. If you if you have the season content toggled off, you don't get them in. You only get them in the warning if the mission type has the warning. Um,
Right.
so is it going to be one of those? I think that is a really important, not necessarily mark, because a lot of the good ones don't have that. Like Egg Hunt doesn't have that, but I think this should be a mission type that does have that. As a really true return to form of what Mine Expedition is. Um,
Yeah.
I think that's
Oh, I'm
yeah.
gone.
Hmm?
Hold on.
Oh yeah, freeze framed again. What you were just looking down
But
when you freeze
I was
framed, but
because I don't want to spoil anything, but I do have a cat on my lap. Have had for a little
you're
while
looking
now.
at your monster cock.
I am, yeah. And if you can,
Don't show us your
yeah.
monster. Oh my god, look at that. He's
My
not
knees
really on your
up
lap,
his
is
head.
he? Can you
He's like
undo
there.
that? I don't
Oh,
need to see your knees.
all right. I'm not actually sure if I can.
But yeah, I
Hold
think
on.
this is a situation where we
Gonna get
know enough about what it's going to be to know that it's what we want, right? We know they're
yeah.
taking the right approach. It's really just going to come down to how interesting the actual specifics are. You know what we're actually doing, what we're
Which
getting, and how you do it. We know it's going to be a relatively free form mission type, and that's all we need.
I think
Um,
chances are you're gonna have to cool something down, right? They like that mechanic, and I don't hate that mechanic. Hopefully you don't have to cool it down often
Well,
because
yeah, I mean
that does
that's
get a
why I
bit
hope
bad.
it's an equipment
But
thing rather than a cooldown a
yeah,
thing that does the thing itself. You know, like
yeah,
you cool down like a scanner or like a specific piece of mining equipment that you can take and use on all the different points that you need to use it on, rather than
yeah.
having to cool something down at
Um,
every point. You know,
and I do think it is an interesting idea of getting like a quark or an egg hunt mission where you can't see where it is without help. That is a pretty cool
it's
idea.
like something buried in
Which
the
I think is what.
walls, but there's no indicator that it's there. So you need this like
Yeah,
thing, a seismic, I guess almost like a seismic, like what I don't know what they're called,
bigger
mapper,
counter.
seismic mapping. Like, if we can use like bombs
Yeah,
to map the environment, for example, I want to do that. That shit's awesome. Um, Something like that, seismic mapping. I don't know. I guess you
yeah.
could, which means it could have like a central hub kind of like machine that does that.
Plus,
You have to activate it and then
it
go out and
does also
find
imply
the stuff that it
we're going to
exposes.
be we're going to be getting a new large mineral, like a lot, like one of the block ones, which I look forward to. I wonder if it's going to be like the same shape as the gold quark and bitter gem. I wonder if they could actually redesign a shape.
I think it would
Um,
probably. I think it would probably be its own thing. I reckon.
and your D's actually all for them. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because if
These
we
bit of
are
gem.
assume it is expedite, it probably will be quite unique.
A
But
quark which used to be
yeah,
called Blue Diz, a long
Ludus.
time ago. I don't even know if that was an in-game
Yeah,
thing. Bitter gems used to be yellow. Yeah, compressed gold. Yeah, yeah, something like that. But I think that's probably actually it for the mission type. Really, I mean, look,
I think it is.
we
Can't talk much more about it.
we're cool with it.
Very cool.
Like that cat. Like, well, maybe not as much like uh, new enemies. Once again, having their own spot on the list. This is
Yeah,
actually interesting. Like, and I think pretty unexpected. Because
I think
I think we have to
you
take
mentioned it on
this.
the
Did I? Okay, go on. What did I say?
I didn't watch your video on it, but I saw the comments, and I noticed they were talking about the Stalker, which I completely forgot about.
Yeah,
But obviously, yeah, the Stalker is in this category, right? Like that's like basically 100% confirmed. That and realistically, there is a good chance that might be the only one with actual legs that moves,
yeah.
right?
So, well, I mean,
I
I mainly want to try and figure out if this is referring to generic enemies and themed enemies, because if you take the season 4 roadmap, it could have meant both. If you remember, most of the enemies were the Rockpox enemies. I don't think that point on the roadmap wasn't referring to those. I think it was referring to both the Spread and Stingtail and all the new Rockpox enemies. I think a majority of these could still be themed enemies, and I think that is technically smarter because it's very difficult to make generic enemies that go down well, as was proved by season 4. So
really,
I think
yeah.
the language here implies a lot of enemies. Like it says some mobile, some stationary. It's like at least 4 enemies, right, in total, at least. So like, they can't all be generic enemies like, added to the generic pool. So it
With
must
that
be
being
referring to
said, though,
partially to themed enemies.
I think that there is a slight exception, and this is why I said what I said. I think if the only movable one is the Stalker, which we already kind of knew we were getting, I think everyone would
Well, it says
encourage that and
some
like that.
mobile,
Uh,
plural.
Yeah, exactly. I guess that maybe more than one then, yeah. But I think other point is stationary enemies. I think in the normal pool would be allowed. They could
Yes, we should
add
get one. Yeah, at
more
least one.
stationary, and that would be. I think people would be fine with it because obviously they would already be there, right? They're not going to be throwing people off too much. But I think it has been like if you wanted to split them into their own category, you want to talk about how long it's been since we've gotten one of those, right?
Yeah.
Since either the Spitballer or the Brunexes. Which one of those did we get the most recently? And however long that was, that's how long it's been we've had. Like it's been since we got one of those, which is absurd, right? How like underutilized that
Yeah,
enemy
so
type is.
that's how like well no because well I still you're wrong, right? You're wrong. There's been more than that, but they're just not as pronounced, right? So there's the deep Tora stuff, the wasps, but
I guess,
they
yeah.
both only exist in 2
The
exclusive
Hollow was
biomes.
probably
But
the
Stabber Vines though as well, but they're only in the Hollow Bow exclusively. And obviously
so far
all
all of
the
these
other
are Biome
ones,
exclusive.
yeah. So I guess you wouldn't actually call them generic, would you? Like because obviously we wouldn't call the seasonal ones that
Yeah.
of like the turrets or yeah the turrets mainly. Um, so yeah, I think you are right in essence in a sense.
But obviously,
Um,
yeah, quite a few exceptions to make it a more poorly looking picture. But it is still a picture that can easily be painted. That, as far as stationary enemies in the normal pool that will appear in any
we
mission,
do have a
irregardless,
boss fight one. Remember, we do have the Corlock.
Warlock, sure,
I want a new
but
Corlock.
that's a
I
boss
want
fight.
it to be a Corlock thing. I would love that. For it to be like a Corlock
I don't
enemy
think they're
type.
gonna just randomly add a new Warlock like enemy thing. Um, I think it could be more like I'd be down for it to be like more of like a crystal geo thing that
Exact.
like
Yeah.
is just out of
Exactly.
the ground and will just only like shoot a laser at you or something like something more on those lines.
Exact. And
Like
I
basically the
guess
thing the
mining
Umbra
it.
has.
I guess that would that imply that mining it is definitely like a part of its like fighting it.
Yeah, that's probably be the only way to kill it,
The
other than
only
obviously
way.
destroying it via not mining, like the way you normally deal with those things. But I think that would be cool if those things were like, and it would be quite creepy. But if they were like clusters, if you know what I mean, like there would be like 3 to 4 to 5 of them within like a pretty close area, so it feels like that thing is like taken over that area.
Or
Um,
it could be
I
an
think that would be
enemy. It could be a stationary enemy that's made up of lots of smaller like rocks basically, so there could be a lot of variety in the size of them. You know, I feel like that's something you
Yeah.
could do with a stationary enemy because you don't have to think about a bunch of like random sized moving enemies, but you could have a stationary enemy be of like random like sizes, and that could work. Especially if we're still
Yeah.
going chasing this like idea of the theme involving those kind of enemies, right? You know,
Well, I
like an
think
Omoran
that's the
style
thing.
thing that we've always talked about, where
Even
it's
the
like,
generic enemies tie into the theme, right? Because that was the
yes,
thing.
they
Last
definitely do.
season, these
Yeah,
generic enemies appeared because Hoxie's just kind of summoned them, like just spawned them out of the hells themselves. And obviously, Hoxies themselves, if I was Ghost Ship and I gave any shred of shit about foreshadowing, I would,
about the fact
while,
that we are, whether they
having,
like it or not, they are obviously doing some kind of Gaia theory narrative,
yeah,
even if they
I
don't
would
realize it.
foreshadow that Hoxie's is starting to get a bit angry with what the dwarves are up to. Even if they haven't actually, they still that won't occur in my head canon at least for now. That will not occur until the very distant future. If in this season, while they're starting to dig deeper, Hoxie starts like getting pissed, and which is why we would use the Omron thing because we kind of see the Omron as like being like a quasi Hoxie's brain,
It's
but
yeah,
obviously not literally. But
it's
like,
like a more direct effort. It's not just it like throwing creatures at you. It's like this is more deliberate. Like the Heartstone
you could, like,
represents like
yeah,
an actual, even if it's small, it's like a physicalization of Oxy's
maybe like a
consciousness.
neuron,
Yeah, it's like a
like a
neuron.
neuron
Exactly, it's
inside of
exactly what it is.
brain.
Yeah, that's kind of yeah, that makes sense. You know, the
And
theory
those
of
things
Hoxie's
kind of
being a
protect it.
brain. Look, Ghost Ship. If this isn't true, you've got to change the map because you can't have it be looking like a brain if we're not right about this.
Yeah,
Seriously.
and I mean,
And do you know what?
if for
I want
some
it to be right
reason,
because genuinely, oh my, I hate this because of how fucking awesome it is. You know, like if it really got exposed to be a really real thing that they're doing, and the whole time Hoxie's has been alive and fighting back, it's genuinely one of the. It would have been one of the coolest like examples of like foreshadowing in anything, genuinely, that I've seen.
yeah,
So I've
and I
really,
mean,
even if they're not
even
planning it,
though,
I want them to adopt this idea, even if they, we don't know that they haven't. We don't know it's not part of their plans, but um, it's such a ridiculous idea, and obviously it's giving way to a lot of these enemy. Speaking of enemy ideas, by the way, very good excuse to do some more drawing, isn't it?
hell yeah,
But I really want. I don't
stationary
know if you agree
enemies
with
get
me. I
really
know that it's
interesting and fun.
yeah, yeah. But I know it's like your thing. But I really want. To do a community led one. Like I really do, and I want like to put out a proper post, have people respond to it, and tell people exactly when we're going to do it as well. I really want to do that at some point.
I think that'd be cool.
Especially because we have done a fair amount of enemies ourselves. So having it be entirely community led. But yeah, we haven't really done a stationary enemy. Like
Yeah,
designing
no,
Omoran style enemies. You got to draw
I
out
probably
Omoran
would.
Golem, Tyler. Come on,
Yeah,
you got to draw. The oldest trick in the book. It's the
yeah. Well,
oldest thing we have. It's the oldest...
that's for the the rework video that won't ever be made. But I would make it if I could make it. But
Yeah, the escort duty
I can't
work.
do it.
Yeah, but he would be in like he can show up elsewhere. Like I envisaged that as like an event
Design
thing.
him. I would probably design him on stream with that, but I would then use it in that video, and that would be kind
So
of
I don't know
that would be the
about
build up.
you, but I do. Whenever I think of this thing, I just think of the fucking golem from Clash of Clans, but with the Omoran texture. That's it.
I don't actually
Just
know what
that.
I think of.
Literally just that.
It's a very default golem. Um, Probably golem from Terraria is probably the closest accurate thing, like
Oh
that,
god,
but Omarini.
no,
Um,
we're really not on the same page there.
yeah. But yeah, I mean that enemies. Well, at least bare minimum, that's going to fuel a few more. Let's DRG, eh? Like like the fucking,
Yeah, but
more
let's see. I
things to
talked
design.
about I talked about the stalker because I think the stalker is I think the stalker's in there. Like I straight up. It's objectively
Yeah,
over
definitely.
90% chance. Anders has been talking about he's actually been working on it, and a while ago, it was sort of sporadically mentioned, but it's been mentioned a few times about how it's still going to be a thing. I think there was season 5 was mentioned specifically at one point, but that was a while ago. But yeah, I think the stalker is going to happen, and we've designed the stalker, so we're good there. Got it down.
Yeah,
Um,
but I would be very surprised if it was close to either of ours. That was so fucking ridiculous.
well,
Just
yeah, I mean,
wide ass
okay, I really liked,
in.
I did like where that went though, in that one of them wasn't a glyphid. I think that was actually a really interesting way to do that. It's like, let's design the stalker as the glyphid stalker, but then also as not a glyphid, and then we got that thing. We got,
The disco ball, but all black.
yeah, I'm pretty sure it wasn't even the stalker though in the end. I think we called it something else. Can't remember.
Yeah. Um,
Crazy.
but no, yeah, that fun, and we now have an excuse to do it again. But I don't think that's the only thing we have an excuse to do again. If I want to segue,
Do you want a
this
segue?
next one should segue. There we are. Good segue. What we can do again is revisit the Overclock workshop.
Why is that, Tyler?
And because Harry, we are getting new Overclocks, one for each.
So, oh god, I really should not have done that because we've still got to do this, and I need to record some stuff for like an assignment.
And you just blew out your voice box.
God, it's not even. Well, I guess we are not necessarily the debate because I don't think we necessarily disagree, but the idea of like the amount we're getting, and the discussion behind that is definitely going to be a thing. But it doesn't matter really to me. It does matter. I want to talk about it, but the fact that we're getting new overclocks at all, I feel like I've won a
It's been
battle.
so low. Like, I mean, like, obviously we got new weapons, which new weapons brought along with new overclocks. But if you just want to stop being a pussy bitch about it, how long it's been? Like, they've never added more overclocks to the old weapons, right? They've never added more overclocks. And that was something that they promised when they added overclocks. They were like, "We'll come back to this.
Yeah.
We'll add some more. Don't
Yeah.
you worry about
Well,
that."
I think
Yeah,
I
like
don't know where
4
those ones
years
went. I
later.
don't know where those ones went, but obviously it was it wasn't really needed when they were doing the new weapons though. But 2 seasons after Gen 3 being out, it's time to start thinking about actually get some new ones in. Come on, especially for the Gen 1 and 2 weapons, right? Especially for them. But I'm equally interested. I am equally interested in all of them, but it's the Gen 1 and 2 that need it the most.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah.
So,
I think I honestly like it is going to be really, really interesting because as we kind of discussed during the Overclock workshop, the Gen 1 and Gen 2 weapons, their overclocks are quite bland in comparison to
some
the
of them
Gen
are.
3 weapons ones.
Oh yeah, in comparison, they are. Yes, definitely.
Plus, like on average, like Gen 3 really tries to do some really odd things as often as they can, right? But like so many of them are just like just like stat changes or like add fire.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah, I'm not saying I want literally every overclock to be well, what's a good example? Yeah, I guess I don't want every overclock to be blistering necrosis, but I do want these should all be like Gen 3 overclocks though. Still, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I don't know what a good example is of that, but probably like. I don't know. Maybe one of the Drax ones, like the fire one on the Drac, is like a good example. That's the kind of level I'm thinking, where it's like as a baseline almost. It's like none of these should be just stat changes. There should at least be a distinct idea behind them that is supported by stat changes. But I think for the most part, they should change shit.
Yeah, none of the Gen 1 or 2s should be a simple addition, especially the Warthog. If the Warthog gets a bland fucking overclock, like, again...
Oh, I'm killing myself.
That would actually be... It's just over.
It's over.
Like, the Warthog is so... Like, it's everyone's, like, favourite weapon, but they can't keep it being their favourite weapon. Because you use the overclock, use the weapon, use the Warthog. Amazing first impression. You shoot a Glyphid in the face. You feel God's euphoria, right? And then you try continue using it while you get overclocks, and then you realize, why the hell am I still using the Warthog? Right? Like many
because
things
everything else is more interesting and fun.
Yeah. like the Warthog, the most interesting thing you actually really get is Stunner.
Well, Turret Whip is the most interesting thing on the Warthog.
Sure, but that's not an overclock.
I know, I know. Yeah, but it's better
The
than all the
most
overclocks, Tyler. That's the
interesting
point.
overclock
It's more interesting than all the
is
overclocks.
Stunner. A thing that just increases stun, but in an
It
interesting
is.
way.
Yeah,
Like
it is.
oh, it's chuck it down. It is crazy, and it's why, yeah, the Warthog. I mean, preferably they would go back and make those ones even more interesting anyway, which I think they still can do. But
Yeah.
this new overclock, if it doesn't do some at least funky shit, then there's no fucking point. Like, because I mean, they got all the bland ones covered as far as the Walkers.
Well, okay, hold on,
concerned.
because
I
you
mean,
said something there. You didn't. Well, you didn't say something. Something you didn't say. You said overclock, right? Singular. Okay. Now we know there's only supposed to be one per weapon. The Warthog only has 5 overclocks currently. Okay. And I don't know about you. I don't know about you, Tyler. But when I see the Hurricane going from 7 to 8, and the Warthog and yeah, the Hurricane and the minigun and the Drac all and the GK2 and actually that's it. But they all go from 7 to 8, and you have the Warthog go from 5 to the number that most of the weapons already have. It's pretty sad still. You know, it kind of doesn't matter how interesting it is. It's still a pretty sorry look.
Sure, you're playing it pretty safe, adding one for all
the
of
Warthog
them.
Gets 2, okay? It gets 2. No matter what. I'm not actually gonna be that angry if it doesn't.
Isn't the other thing as well, Zookods?
Yeah, but that's secondary weapon.
The thing is yeah, obviously they don't do that yet. But also the Zookods ones, while literal, they at least are quite interesting, right? Compared to the fucking Warthog.
Kind of. I mean, I always believe that a really good approach should be that both the Warthog and the Zookods should get their 6th overclock anyway, as a separate thing almost, right? And then the Warthog still gets its, you know, that's almost like a separate from season 5 thing. And then the Warthog would still get the new one. I kind of think that should happen anyway. But it just doesn't matter. It's just so good. And we are going to go and look back through like the workshops and stuff and try and, because like we did the final pitches, for example, which was like picking the best ones, whether it be mine or Tyler's. It wasn't both. And refining them a little bit.
Now,
and putting forward what I'll be one more than a year. Putting forward what we think our best idea was. But that's not the same as trying to guess what we think the new ones are going to be. It's not quite the same. So we're going to look back through everything. We're even going to probably just use our own brain power. Although I guess the problem is that it doesn't matter how objective we try to be about what's like a realistic addition. We're not going to let go of the Hurricane one. It doesn't matter. It's just going to be that no matter what. It's just going to be.
Yeah, I don't remember what we did for the Warthog, but if it wasn't Erupting Cock, I'm now going to be quite pissed.
That wasn't the final pitch. But when I think about it, that was such a great idea. Like an explosive reload thing for a pellet weapon was actually a really great idea.
I think it would have been satisfying as fuck.
Speaking honestly, it really does suit the boomstick more because it has a wider spread, and that makes more sense for the concept of like a spread of pellets, and like you've got to get real close to have them. I think you increased the spread though in that overclock of the Warthog.
I think so, but I wouldn't say it works better with the boomstick because you can only get like 2 shots off before you have to reload. But with the Warthog, you could load up like a really nice like thing, like bang, 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 reload, ching, and then like the entire like horde that you'd already like satisfyingly shot into just erupts. I would have loved that. I also love the name Erupting Cock because you cock the gun, that's when it erupts. That's the joke.
Yeah, it's horrifying.
But either way, yeah.
Would you want it to be timed that way? Like, it wouldn't be just when you click reload. It would be when he actually does that part of it.
Goes to chang, and then, like, yeah, they go. Which obviously that would be slightly worse because it takes, like, longer, but it would look cooler. So
that could be part of the balance. That could be part of the penalty, you know?
Yeah.
It could be built into its design to balance it. Yeah, exactly.
But, because yeah, I think as much as I want a more complicated one, you need to play into the strengths of the Warthog, right? You don't want it to get silly, like where it like I don't know, just farts and then it shoots out a fart wave.
The strength of the Warthog is that it's the strength of the Warthog is that it's like really like genuinely like amazing at both medium and short range, but it immediately it immediately stops doing anything at long range. You know, that's like what the Warthog is. It's like surprisingly good at medium, amazing at close. Well, it's like almost equally both because it's such a tight spread that it almost doesn't work in extreme close range. You know, but then
Yeah.
it just does nothing at long range but then so yeah, it's like you could do it that way, but I would see this overclock as taking away some ammo as well. So you'd really want to be careful and make sure, you know, it's not like Sabata where you could literally
No,
do it from any range.
they're not
You
adding
know,
a long range overclock to the Warthog, mainly because
we've
they've
got
already got
one.
one. They got the tighter spread one. But also, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. You need to make sure that it stays satisfying to shoot, which they probably won't fuck up. But that's like my main concern, if anything. Um, but yeah, no. Obviously, overclocks for all the weapons, be it only primaries, it's like sad face. But it definitely implies we will get secondaries next season. Which, if anything, if it helps you sleep at night, we're definitely getting a season 6. That's basically what it says. And like I mean,
Well,
they wouldn't just add primaries. They're gonna add secondaries, and if they're gonna add secondaries, that means there's gonna be another update, which would be season 6. So if you need that to sleep at night, then there's that. Um, so
yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I think there's not much more we can say without doing the video we're gonna do,
Well, yeah. There's the
right? Where we
conversation
just
though. It's like whether or not it's like is it enough? You know, and I think a lot of people would try and say that it isn't, and I would. I could agree with them, but still maintain my position that it kind of just doesn't matter at this point. You know, it's
yeah,
it might not be enough in a vacuum, but season 5 is enough, I think. And the new overclocks are part of the season 5 package.
a
Yeah,
big part.
it's not a huge
Like,
amount. It's not a huge amount of overclocks in a vacuum, but it's still the first time we've ever got new overclocks. And maybe this is just how it is. Maybe they are really fucking difficult to design and more so to decide upon, right? I think it is.
yeah.
I really think it is actually more difficult than people realize. You know,
Well, I mean,
um,
we came up with like 6 in between us.
yeah, and I think
I
most of them
mean,
were shit.
yeah.
That's the point. You know, they probably had hundreds, Tyler. You probably, and you whittle it down because you have to whittle it down because you can't just add like 3 per overclock per weapon and have them
Yeah,
be
you
good
can't
because they'd
just
probably be
add
shit.
bullshit to games. Which is why it's weird that they do that for tier 5s. Like when they added the corrosive bullets to the Sabata. Like it feels like their standard is so high, and then it isn't sometimes. But with overclocks, it definitely is.
Well, yeah, I mean that's why I
So
think people think about sometimes the distribution of categories. You know, like the category of the overclocks, what they're going to be. You know, cleans, balanced, unstables.
yeah,
Are cleans like out the picture for this lot? I don't think so because I think cleans have an ability to be a certain way. Like the Drac and the Hurricane both have 3 unstable overclocks, for example.
yeah.
You could
I think
easily
cleans
get
would
a
suit them
good
better.
enough. You could easily get a good enough clean in there, right? But I still hold that a majority of them should be balanced or unstable.
Yeah, and also with those 2 examples in particular, which works even better, is those 2 have already had it quite good recently, right? They
Mm,
don't really need a new overclock, right? That like a big special cool new one.
yeah.
Like you could play it pretty safe, just add a good clean, which like makes it interesting. Like I still think all of these cleans, like all of these overclocks, should like reinforce or improve a certain aspect of the weapon. Like that should be a given, right? And I think as long as they do that in an
Yeah,
interesting way,
whatever the Hurricane
within
one
the
is, it shouldn't turn off guidance. I'll say that much.
yes, for the love of God. And if they somehow cop out and they re-add the that thingy that they got rid of as the clean, that would be pretty impressive. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I think fuck yeah, overclocks. Like I think everyone's probably saying that as well. I imagine, even if some people might think it's too little, tough. Like
What I meant by it not mattering is it might not seem like enough, but I think it's going to feel like enough when you get them. Like genuinely. I think it's going to
Like
really
having,
surprise. The impact is going to really surprise people. I think.
I mean,
Um,
it's just such a pleasant thought to think about. Like having a new overclock on, like, I'm thinking like flamethrower is actually the main
oh
thing in
my
my
god,
head.
yeah. Same.
I'm
Honestly,
really
same. Like the
looking forward.
flamethrower is actually a really good example. Like I'm with
Like
you on the flamethrower. Like yeah,
Like, I think an overclock on the flamethrower, it could fucking save that weapon for me. I mean, the weapon is already all right. Like with the overclocks that it, like, you know, the ammo one or the magazine size one, I can like the weapon enough. But I really hope that they add an overclock that actually makes it like fun and good and interesting as well.
yeah.
Like, because when they try interest, I don't know if sticky fuel was their goal at, was interesting, but they didn't work. And it's the same with face melter. But like, yeah, like my thought goes to
Sticky fuel, by the
flamethrower,
way,
but
I
honestly,
would love
all of
sticky
Call of
fuel. I
Duty was
want this like
primary.
separately. I would love sticky fuel to be reworked to actually be like napalm. Like it actually is like liquid. But I know it'd be really difficult, but I would love it. Like it is actually like a physical, and it has like projectile drop off and things like that. But that's probably not gonna
Yeah,
happen. But yeah, flamethrower, just like because it's the flamethrower is gonna be something, you know. Cool. It wouldn't be just because the flamethrower really doesn't need like basic stat change overclocks at all. You know, it
no,
doesn't. I mean, it's got the only ones that it needs is the more ammo, and it's already got that. I really want to see something that plays with like heat in a more interesting way. I don't really know what. It's actually really hard to imagine a flamethrower one, but that's kind of the point. You know, that's the exciting part. I think. Um,
I think I would look forward to. I wouldn't mind, like, it's like essentially sticky flames, but it twists it a little bit, where you lose like most of your ammo, which is what sticky flames does. But like you set something on fire, and when it dies, if it dies to the fire, it will blow up in a fiery ball, which would ignite any other enemies near it. And if they die to that fire, then it's like a chain reaction where the flamethrower essentially doesn't even have to do anything on its own, and it has the ammo to kind of, you know, make that
I think
fair.
what Tyler doesn't
But you're
realize
not.
is that he's just come up with another Krieg-based flamethrower overclock because that's just blood explosion. Because that's
Yeah.
just blood. Um,
Yeah, and I did come up with the fire one ball one, but it's just like, yeah, basically that, because I like the flamethrower. I kind of do want the flamethrower to be a weapon that you kind of use and then move on with your life, but shooting the floor is not how I want to do that. I want to, you know, shoot the glyphids in the face with a flamethrower. I'm sorry, like I wanted to shoot the enemies. Sue me, right? So preferably I'd do something with that. And obviously face melter fucking blows.
he wants to
So it
shoot
leaves
the
you with
enemies
like,
directly, but he doesn't want to have to shoot them till they die either. Okay, face melter, you
yeah,
fucking idiot.
yeah, and like considering it's bad at that still, like I don't know. Um, but yeah, I think there's so much potential that even like, you know, there's going to be a overclock as well, right? They're going to accidentally add an overclock, which is going to be overwhelmingly powerful, right? They're going to do it. They're going to fucking slip up, right? It's just a fact that one of the weapons is about to get one of the most OP overclocks in the game.
Yeah,
Another, poor, sorry, I would guess two weapons are about to get some dog shit. Like, these overclocks are going to do fucking nothing. They're going to be a waste of time and energy. People are going to be like, why did you add that? And I bet you it's going to be both on engineer because they
yep,
fucking hate engineer. Like, it's going to
yeah.
be on the low key
Because
and
Tyler,
the
like
warthog
when you were
again.
saying there's going to be one that's going to be overpowered, I was thinking, what weapon would that be? My first thought was not the engineer, not any of engineer's
Yeah,
primaries.
yeah. Um,
I wasn't thinking about the
like,
weak one necessarily, but yeah, yeah. I mean, look,
it could
this is
be
actually a really cool part of getting these is because there's going to be sort of like a blend of types of videos that they'll allow. You know, at some point there will be another like full on overclock tier list. That'll be after the secondaries, but we're going to do we're going to do a tier list for these overclocks. You know, um,
yeah.
and these
And
overclocks will
probably
also lend
videos
themselves
individually, I'd imagine
to
too,
the
right?
actual. Yeah, I'm going to try and what I'm going to try and do is I'm gonna try and do two a week, maybe, and they'll when they're going on, they'll replace build showcases, and I'll try and put them out on Tuesday and Thursday, and it will just be like playing like a mission, two missions at least with each individual overclock, and it'll be a very different build each time as well, and I'll try and give a verdict at the end. It's like a showcase for every overclock, new ones, and I'll try and do them in a timely manner. That's my idea. But well, yeah, we'll do it like literally a straight up tier list on just those overclocks as well. I think I really want to do that. I think we discussed that before. Um,
Yeah, which I think would be based on like how, like not just its strength. I think as well at that point, it'll be like how valuable is this to the weapon?
Yeah, I mean,
Like, was this worth
our tier
adding?
lists, unless they're
Tier list.
specified in the title, our tier lists are always like holistic. It's always drawing in every aspect of something. You know, how good it is, how strong it is, how well implemented it is, how much it complements the game overall. It's always everything. You know?
How much
So
the weapon relies on it or something like that.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, it is. It is going to be like that. It's going to be which I look forward to putting something in S tier. I'm hoping it's for Driller. I don't know what for.
I
Like I
know
feel
there'll
like
be a
the sludge
gunner
pump
one. I'm
doesn't
very
really.
sure there'll be a gunner one in S tier. But
I'm sure Gunner is not going to get anything in. Maybe Gunner in S, but he's definitely not going to get anything lower than like a C. Like like
no, gunner's
they
not
don't
going lower
add.
than B. I think.
Yeah, like Gunner is such a reliable fucking hit for them. They always know the exact right thing to do with Gunner most of the time. I mean, obviously they didn't nail it on the head with the thingy, but it was still good.
I'll
Or
fucking
yeah,
kill you.
it's still good. People still liked it. Like the the new one they added, like when they replaced one. Um,
Oh, rocket
but
barrage. Yeah,
yeah,
that one's a bit funny. Uh, that's just implementation, though. I think. Aside from the fact that it shouldn't turn the guidance off, that's just because of the ammo thing, where you can't take the ammo mod on an ammo overclock and have it be a good idea, and that's just not quite right. That's not how it should be.
yeah.
Because it just adds more ammo to the weapon. It doesn't actually multiply the ammo, which is what they're meant to do. That would make the actual mod give you more than it normally does, but it doesn't. Yeah, that's wrong. How would you have felt if it was like they did it by generation instead? You know, like they started with Gen 1, and that was every Gen 1
Well,
primary, secondary, and you got like 2 to 3 or per weapon or something like that. I know
ignoring
we
the fact
can't.
that that
That's
means
just a
we would have
completely
gotten less.
hypothetical, but
Yeah, ignoring the fact that we would have technically have gotten less overclocks, right? And it would have been coming out over this period of like 3 years. We'll
so
ignore
bad
that part.
basically. So you're just gonna shit on my idea.
Yeah, yeah.
I was just
Yeah.
bringing it up. I wasn't saying like, oh, I wish it was this. I was just like,
No, yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, but I would say that I mean that's the better way of going about it rather than starting at 3, right? I think I would riot if they started at Gen 3 and worked their way backwards. But I don't know. I mean, preferably if they had done it like that, then we could have expected to see 2 per gen, right? I think that would have been a bit more possible. If they had less things to work with already, like they,
well, I said it would be
it wouldn't
like
have
I
been.
said in this context, it would actually be 2 to 3 at most, 2 to 3 per weapon. In this idea, it wouldn't be one.
I think
Um,
two is yeah, because it goes from like we're currently getting 12, it'll go down to 8, but if we double it, it goes up to 16. It's 4 more than 12, so I think it's reasonable for them to do that. But in this scenario, I would be pretty hype about it because Gen ones need it, right? Gen two
exactly,
do
and
equally as much.
I think so. I want to speak to the very the way that they seem to be very I don't know if strict is even the right word, but very set on it being 12. And I'm not saying they should lift that cap, but I'm also saying they shouldn't. This is not something that I want them to hold back on either. There are so many examples we could point out of them having gotten carried away when they shouldn't. Right? I think
Yeah,
I want them to get carried away when they should, and this is an example of that. And there could be a chance that they just don't have that many, but I also don't want them to stop themselves if
look at a
they
spreadsheet.
could make more. If they found themselves like we could easily make more of these, do it. Just do it. I'm not. No one will. It's just a good idea. So please don't hold back. But I'm also still not. I'm not saying it's still going to be too little. I'm just saying I don't want them to stop themselves if they have to stop themselves. Because they don't
Yeah,
have to. Because
I
they don't. The more the
yeah
merrier.
no
Like
they
genuinely, for once, the more the merrier. The more they put into this, the better it will be. So
I feel like worst
oh
case
god, is you running?
scenario. Yeah, ooh, it's dark even though it's like the
Not
middle of the fucking
dark.
day. Dude, it's
Daytime.
like look at you can't even see that there's like light coming in, mainly because there isn't. Like if I was to turn off the lamp, that's like turns it dim. Off. How fucking dark it is. It's the middle of the bloody
It barely
day.
changed, Tyler.
Shut up. Liar. But yeah, Overclocks. Yeah.
But that's not sarcasm. That
No,
yeah, it's real.
it's a very real yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Um, and that's not it. But let's be honest, that is mostly it.
Oh, okay, hold your horses. Okay, we're getting a new performance.
Yeah, which
Obviously, okay. The only thing I want to talk about is where are we at on like whether or not it should be extended. That thing you said a while
I
ago.
I'm at like 100%, but not like you said it by 100%. Just extend it like by like 50, mainly because we are definitely not getting any maintenance updates during the coming to 6, right? Like they are going to be working on road core so hard. They are not going to be touching Deep Rock in any real way, shape, or form, other than maybe making
Well,
hats
hold on.
for
But
the
as
event.
far as we knew, the
Um,
maintenance update still happened when they were going hard on Roadcore. You know.
I guess, but it's like at this point in time, it's like you know they have to, right? They're already fairly behind schedule in at least one form, right? Like they probably aren't behind schedule generally, but I don't know. I can't help but see them absolutely buckle down, go full throttle, like go full throttle on road court as much as they're going full throttle on Deep Rock right now. It wouldn't make much sense if they didn't like they're putting everything into Deep Rock right now. If they then didn't put everything into road court, it wouldn't make much sense. They should just go hard, because at that point that's like November from like April, October. Actually, that's not that many months. But I don't know. The
But it's just artificially extending the pass. Is that the way to improve that situation?
uh, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think it's not very. It's not it's more a sentiment that they haven't acknowledged um how much things have changed with that system, right?
Yeah.
That system was built for 4 to 6 months, right? And they are now using it for a year, right? And they're likely going to be using it for a year again.
Mm.
And I think you can look us in the eyes and say that that's fine. That's what they intend to do. They still think it's a
Like it's
good
like
start for a
staring someone
year.
in the eyes
Sure.
while you shit on the floor.
Yeah, no, but if they looked the community in the eyes and said, like, we are fine with this being this for a year, some people still won't finish it. Hell, I just did. I mean, we've still got like 4 months until season 5, but it still took me this long. But like, they can say that, sure, but I want them to say it. I don't want them to not even mention or realize that they are like giving us half a pie thinking it's the full pie, right? Like, or at least they give us a pie made for one person, which is 6 months, but we're expected to feed two people, which is 12 months, right? Like, it is content made for less time than we have. And I don't know, it's just silly. It's silly to think that it will last, even if it will, they should acknowledge it, right? That yeah, it was made for 6 months maximum, and it's been
Yeah, I mean
used for 7 months
this is
often.
why I'm a big fan of my idea, which is having like more specific rewards at like over 100 tiers, like more specific ones, like every like 50, and there'd be more deliberately placed
Yeah,
items.
I
Because I
think
think
that works, especially
that
since
would give a lot of
ultimately you'll.
playtime to the people who aren't inherently playing just to finish the pass either, and especially the people who would
Yeah,
get it done quickly. You know, they can kind of
they would have one in the distant future. Like,
well, it's kind of like I'm not inherently getting by on getting a new item from the past every other level, like every other mission or what have you. That's not inherently what's getting me through it. It kind of is, but it also kind of isn't. It's just the idea of getting something specific, more so. And if there's a thing at every 50th level that is good enough to get there, that will work for a lot of people. And you only need to do that, I would say, up to 250 or something, like that would work.
Well, at that point,
Maybe
I
even
don't see
just
why you wouldn't
200.
go.
Maybe even just
I don't see why you wouldn't kind of like go a fairly whole hog, because ultimately, with the way the pass works, people will get access to that content when it ends anyway, right? Like that's how it works.
yeah. Well,
And
these are the kind
personally,
of
I wouldn't.
items. These are the items, Tyler, that would become credit sinks as well. By the way, they go into the store for like 2 million credits. That's also part of my idea.
Yeah, but the people that have credits to sync would already had it because they would have earned it during the season. That's the only problem with that.
Yes, that's
But
also true.
I do still think I think since it's going to be coming into the thing anyway, you can easily take some liberties and have it be like there's a headgear at like 500 on the pass where it's like if you have this headgear before the end of the season, fair play to you, right? That kind of thing. But like it'll be a part of the normal pool eventually. It's not FOMO by any stretch of the imagination. But if you earn your way there, you should be able to rep that drip for the rest of the season, knowing damn well that you're just played the game a ton.
Oh yeah,
Like you know,
yeah.
like
And
I
I
think
think
that
the problem is
would work better than just.
the chances are they're not doing anything like this. You know, that's the thing. We
Oh,
kind of know that,
but
and
I hope that.
I just it's annoying because I know it's not even them necessarily being set in their ways. It's just because I think that's not what it is a lot of the time. I think it's very often a decision isn't made because they're set in the ways. It's just because they've already set the way, so they can kind of ignore it. You know, that's what it is.
Yeah,
They're not
they
thinking about that. They've already done it. It's not that they stand by it to the death. They just don't think about it
They
instead.
were like,
It's very different.
we made a season pass in the past. We're just going to do that again, and then do that again, and then do that again, and it's just a
Yeah,
habit, right?
they're not
At this
they're
point,
not actually married to it. They're just not interested in changing it because they've already done it. Because they've
yeah, and they don't think about changing it. But I think now, either now is the time to change it, or now is the time to at least say why you're not. Like, if they are still fine with it being the way it is, I think that's fair enough. I don't. I think it's as someone who barely plays, I still I finished it eventually, but it was still alright. But like I do not think they can pretend that nothing has changed
exactly.
because a lot it's changed a lot. I don't know if they think the weapon maintenance is supposed to cover up that, but
It
it really
doesn't.
won't, because considering
It
you're going to be
doesn't.
finishing the weapon
It
maintenance before the
yeah
pass.
yeah. It
uh,
doesn't actually do anything. It's just an extra
so
thing.
like
It's not adding more time on. Is what I should say.
yeah, it's not like once you finish the pass you then have this system to do. It's alongside, and
Pardon
it's
me.
silly. um I think, yeah, that like I just want them to address it in one way or another. Either be like, yeah, we should probably extend it in some way, shape, or form to match the extended amount of time it's taking up, or they can say, nah, we think it still works, and I'll be like, yeah, it kind of does, because it kind of does still. It's still not that bad, but I think it's silly, goofy that they have this still, like they haven't addressed it. That it, yeah, I don't know. Um, but yeah, that's my thoughts on the season pass, which is probably the least juicy part of the news, really. Because other than the DLC, it was like the most guaranteed thing we were getting.
Yeah, well, we haven't
Um,
talked about daily challenges, but I don't really want to. I don't really
yeah,
Look,
neither do I.
we've made our thoughts clear, I think, in that it's a very rich, like, there's a lot of potential in that system that we just want them to take advantage of, and it kind of stops there. We know there'll be one for the new mission type, but once again, it's an example. It's the same thing. I mean, it's part of the same system. You know, there's a reason why we didn't get any in season 4. It's because based on all the things that they'd already, made challenges for, there wasn't something there for season 4, so they just didn't do it.
Yeah,
And that's kind of the problem. That's why I
it
think
should have
that's
been a
why I
wake up
don't think
call.
it's them being set in their ways. That's why I think it is more them thinking they have an excuse to ignore it rather than them being strict about it. Um, they kind of just didn't see fit to add anything there because it didn't fit in with what they'd already established. Um, it's not they wouldn't be willing to break the rules. They just don't have. They're not willing to spend the time to expand the rules. And I really want them to. And that's both daily challenges and like the length of the pass and things like that. So I just want, yeah, I think we've said this point as well before, even just in this episode. But it's really just about seeing, even if there's not any changes, is seeing some kind of acknowledgement of that system and where it's come and like how far it's come and how far it hasn't come. For example, really. I want to see an acknowledgement of it, either in the form of them talking about it or in the form of changes like the ones that we're suggesting. So I need something on that, something, even if it's just words. Okay, and yeah, so please,
Yeah,
please.
that season pass.
Yeah, I guess we'll see how old season passes work though as well.
Yeah.
The final point.
I don't know how much we can or want to say about that, but I think it's cool. But I think people's main problem with it, I think, is just allocation of resources, right?
Yeah,
It's like, is that
reactivating
really what
old
they're supposed to be
seasons.
working on?
Well, the only reason there's a worry about that is because they haven't, figured out how exactly it's going to work, and that is also time spent. Is like figuring this thing out, and it does sound quite complex. We talked about like does it like pick up your progress? Would that kind of be pointless if you've already finished the previous performance passes? But what's the point in going through one if you've already unlocked everything anyway? And it's like, is it more for new players? But it's also definitely for old players who want to go back and experience things. It's like, and so how do you base the formatting of that feature? Do you base it on new players or old players or both? And what does it look like if you base it on both? It's like, it sounds like really complex. And so a lot of the time spent is going to be just figuring it out. And that's also valuable time. And I personally would just rather it be spent doing other stuff. Straight up. I'm not going to beat around the bush.
Yeah,
this is the only thing in this season that I don't give a shit about, and I'm not going to pretend like I don't.
You can see what they were thinking vaguely, right? That it's like, how do we make past seasons more valuable?
Yeah.
Right? Like how do we make them worth more retroactively and weren't just a thing we did that no one could go back to or anything like that, right? Probably a combination of people's annoyances that their progress on those passes are now into the aether, like nothing ever really coming from it. Like there's probably a combination of some good reasons, but none of those reasons, like, unless, like, thing is it's like justifiable if this wasn't this big of a deal, right? If they hadn't, like, if they were just like, yeah, this is no real big effort on our behalf switching between these things and like adding this as a feature, like if that was the case, then it's kind of like fair play, at that point, why not, right? But it seems to be a big deal. Yeah. Right? They made it like we really don't have any idea how we're gonna do this. like I assume they know they can technically do it, or they wouldn't have announced it. But they're really not sure as to like progressing on the past, because all those items are already in the store. Like, will they go back into the past, and can you earn them through the past? Like all the technical nuance, not technical, but like just the that nuance stuff they've not figured out yet. And I really feel like,
how much does it? Are you literally changing
things.
The game version, or is it just like a reconfiguring of content? Like, it's not going to bring back all the old bugs, is it, that were present in season 1? Like, you'd hope not. Like, is it just going to bring it back to that state? But what does that mean? Does that mean does it bring back all the assignments from season 1, like the season 1 original assignments and things like that? You'd assume it probably would. It's like,
if you go back to season 1, does industrial sabotage go back to out of assignments and become its own thing
or
again?
Is it just the performance pass
what happens
thing?
to Rockbox? Is Rockbox still in the game?
Like at all?
You would assume it is.
Well, you would assume it's not if you're going back to season 1.
Yeah, but I would assume it is, because they're not going to remove Rockbox, and that's the stuff they're gonna like. It's like, I don't know. It's like, it's a cool theoretical, but they're like as gung ho about this idea as Overclocks and a game mode, and it's like, where is this energy coming from?
And where is the need for this coming from now? This is this is a sunsetting feature, right? Yeah. It's something you do at the very end. Okay, when you stop, or at least when you stop doing seasons properly, and that's not yet. So I'm just not sold. That's all it is. I'm just not sold, and I can't see myself being sold. There's no real way to sell me on this. That's the problem.
I think I want to coin a term. This feels a lot like a 2023 Ghost Ship. where they just kind of
What's wrong
did
with
it
2023 Ghost
because
Ship, Tyler?
yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I just want
Everything
to say like
compared to
past
2024 and pre-2023 Ghost Ship. I'll say that much. Everything.
yeah, like it just feels like they added the switch to turn off season 4, and they were like, "What if we turn on season 3
No one
or
wants that.
2 or
No,
1?"
look,
And then
look.
they just
Maybe they can
and
do
then they
it.
just added
Maybe they can do
it.
it to see how few people are going to touch that feature. That's why they're doing it. Because trust me, ain't no one going back to season 3.
I'm sorry, yeah, but like considering they often say that like the has 6 is not worth the effort for the amount of players that are actually going to interact with that content. People are going to mess around going back to season 1 or 2 or 3, and then they're just going to go back to the
This is what I
normal
mean.
mode of the game.
This is like the same level in terms of like I assume a pretty similar level of like effort or whatever in terms like something like adding Hazard 6 or adding like a infinite promotions in some way. And both of those
Or
things
doing
have so much more will have so much more value,
that
you know.
the anniversary mode. Remember that? I think it's still in the game, but no one fucking plays it.
Legacy edition.
Yeah, the Legacy Edition. That
Yes,
I
it's that
imagine
shit
I think they
again.
talked about it. That took a lot of effort, but no one plays it, right? It was cool that they did it. It was cool. A lot of people played
Yeah.
it then, but I doubt anyone's playing it now. And it's just kind of like
It doesn't
they're
sour the
so
bunch, does it? It doesn't sour the bunch,
they're
but it is
so
an example
particular.
of yeah. It's like it's an example. It does remind me of what was happening last year because it doesn't feel well chosen as a thing to spend time on. Everything else about this
Yeah,
season does though. That's the thing. You know, that's the problem.
yeah.
That's what's so great about
But
season
like
5. But that's what's the problem with this. I don't see
nobody
the
asked for
reason why.
these.
Exactly.
Um,
No one asked for it either. It's just
yeah.
it's not the time to be doing things that no one asked for. You know, it's not.
Yeah, and it's like it's once again though, if you could have sold it as we literally, it's easier to do this than not to. Like if they were like, this is one of the easiest things we could do, we could just twitch it on and off easy as. It would have been fine, but it seems like it's going to be an actual genuine amount of effort that no one wants pointing towards that general direction, which is why I think it's 2023 Ghost Ship. They're just working on something that no one wants for no reason. like
Yeah.
what's the goal there? And my only theory is that this came to me just a second ago. This is their solution to seasons not lasting long enough or a year. It's to bring back old seasons so you have more than one season to do in a year, right? Like if you complete the current season, cool beans. Now go complete the previous season and the season before that and the season before that
Yeah,
and the season before
I
that.
think for season 1 specifically, I get that because season 1, obviously, a lot of people came in during season 1, but there've been a lot more people since season 3. You know, so a lot of people really have
Yeah,
not experienced what season
season
1
one and
was
season
like.
three.
You know,
How
so
people are going to choose season like 2 and especially 4, right? No one's going to go
well,
back to those. Like
I am going to be interested in season 2 a little bit. I find season 1 really interesting though because assuming it's like a full, you know, rollback of sorts. Like you're gonna have like the
you
Gen
would
3
lose the
primaries,
secondary.
but not the Gen 3 secondaries. Like that's a weird situation to be in.
This,
So,
this is why it's definitely not the case, right? That's not how this is working. They are not taking away anything. But I do think it's going to switch those kind of things again. Like how like I don't know how rivals were toned down going into season 3. Like
mm.
technically, like they appear in this missions. I think that if you bring it back to season 2, they will appear more common like they were back then. I think that is going to be the primary reason to go back to those seasons, other than
I'm going
progressing
back
through
to
the
season
past.
2. I want to play the rival comms router event more than once every two
Yeah.
months. You know,
Bear in mind, you will have to do the other one as well, though. We'll have to see that more
I'll
often.
see it
But
more often, but I'll see.
and
You know,
Prospector. There was a Nemesis. I think were they more often back
Nemesis.
then? Um,
Um,
but
that's actually interesting. I think they were. I think they were. You know,
honestly though, if it does turn out that if you put it in season 1 or season 2, I think it was both of those still. If you go into those times and industrial sabotage leaves your assignments, that will be like the most played mode. Like genuinely,
wow.
like if that's like the only
Yeah.
thing it does,
Like
really changes
season
those kind of
Tyler,
things,
that's why season 2 could actually be quite popular because that's like pretty close
could be.
to now, but it also has that going for it, you know?
Unless, yeah, people don't want to fight the nemesis, right? That's like the only real change. Like, if people don't want to fight the nemesis, they'll play season one.
I think people
Or
prefer
at least it's
Nemesis to Industrial 7.
yeah, but like, I don't know, man. It's like it's so odd and it's so out of nowhere and it's up there with all these stuff, right? Like it's in the
Yeah,
bigger text
exactly.
things.
Like we probably wouldn't even be
Like,
saying if this was in like the smaller features list, probably wouldn't be talking about
and
this
if they
much.
made it, and they didn't specifically say they have no idea how they're going to do it on stream, it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, why?
What are you doing?
Why?
Like, instead of
Just
doing this,
why?
add more overclocks, right?
Yeah.
Like any resources allocated towards this, putting
Or
that towards overclock,
or Tyler,
everything will be better.
better yet, or even worse yet, anything else. You know,
Pretty much.
pretty
Add
much.
another beer. Fuck it. Like just
What
like
you? Maybe, maybe.
no. But that's the kind of thing no. But that's obviously not what people want. But it's like, it's just what. Like, I don't know. Like, everything else is so good, and this isn't bad. It's still one of those things, right? Ghost Ship doesn't add bad things, but considering they so often
That doesn't
spout
that
that
doesn't mean they don't add wrong things. There's a difference.
yeah, but they so often spout that like something is a good idea, but they don't have the time, resources, and manpower to do it now, or it's something
Like,
is too good of an idea, or like it's a good idea, but it would take too much to
yeah,
ever do. Like female dwarfs, essentially, right? They use resources and time management as such a huge reason as to why they don't do good things, essentially, or like what people want, right? Like, but then they did season 4, right? Where they spent so much time and resources on something people never wanted, like most of all of it, no one wanted or asked for, right? And obviously they learnt from that since, generally, but there is still clearly a semblance of them that's still there because this piece of content is still just, I guess we'll do this, Ghost Ship, right? Like that kind of like just
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
oh,
Where
we
everything
added a
else
turn
doesn't
off.
feel like them guessing. No, it's almost like they
Yeah,
had a spare slot in their like I don't know their workflow distribution spreadsheet or whatever. I don't know, and they're like, oh, we could actually
yeah.
there's like some extra work in between now and like June that wouldn't be like there's some time or some resources that wouldn't be used up. Something like I don't know. It's very theoretical. Like, what should we fill it with? No, no. You already know what
Yeah.
you're filling it with in a lot of other. You already know you're filling it with some overclocks, right? Just do more of that. you know, Just-
Yeah,
I
or
don't know,
do more
man.
of something that you actually see like a single person ask for,
Well, okay,
right?
no.
Like,
Hold on. See, I need to bring that up. That I've seen it suggested. I have seen this suggested.
yeah,
Not a popular suggestion though. It's not a pop. And that's kind of the point. It's just I'm just not feeling it. And but I
but
think
I
I
do,
like what I
do
said. I
think
said I
this.
don't. I'm not. It's one of the things I'm not sold on. But also, I don't know how I could be sold on it. That's the thing. I
I
can't
think
see any
this.
way this goes that I'm going to be really like happy about. Um,
I think this is like best faith thing is what I'm thinking is what I mentioned it earlier, but like this is their solution to this next season not going to be lasting a year, right? Well, it will take a year, but it won't be a year's worth of work, right? Or like the the 100 tiers, right? It is not a year's worth as 100 tiers, and I feel like this is their solution towards that. Is if you bring back the old seasons, then now you have like 500 tiers to work through in one way or another. But I just think that is misplaced, and ultimately I think if these resources went towards, or these even thoughts or whatever they took putting into this, if this went into making season five's season longer and better, like if you know what I mean, like the actual
yeah,
season
yeah,
pass, if it made the
exactly. Yeah,
season pass better, that would be better, right? I think instead of going back and diving into the old seasons for reasons to play the game, make the current season just better. But I don't know. I think yeah, it just shows. I can only assume that it's going to make the season thing even more rigid, right? Like I can only I would guess, but like it'll probably make it even harder because now from this season onwards, all of these seasons are going to be made compatible with going back to, right? And they
yeah.
probably can't change certain things. I would imagine. Like I don't know. I think it's not good, and it's basically the only piece of not good in the entire thing. But it's a really weird coincidence that it ended up being the last thing we were talking about, the last thing on the list. Um,
Yeah, I think it's one of the things I'd really like to just be able to have a conversation with someone about, right? Like if we
yeah.
could just talk to one of like, not I know we would never be able to talk to Mikkel, but anyone to be like, are you sure about this? Like,
What's the reasoning? What
yeah.
are we missing?
Like, we're
Like
like, are you sure about this? We'll be like, yeah. And we're like, okay, so why though? And then the answer probably wouldn't be as clear. If you know,
we
it'd be
would
like,
hope. Um,
yeah, like,
or we would hope, but like we think they could have a very good reason that we don't get, but for now it's I don't see it. It's not obvious if it's there. Like yeah, but
yeah,
either way, I don't know. It'll be I don't know. It'll be like randomizer, right? It's gonna
yeah,
be
pretty
just a
much.
piece of content that's in the game, but you never fucking use. When was the last time you saw anyone even talk about randomizer?
Yeah,
I guess not now, just now, but like otherwise, like
apart from just
it
now.
is literally this. This hide and seek drink is going to be more long term than
Oh yeah,
randomizer. I'm
well, yeah,
100% sure of
absolutely.
it.
Yeah,
Like
easily.
this drink is going to be so much more substantial,
Right,
and you
let's
want to
not
know
run
why?
about
Because it
randomize.
was slightly more thought out. Yeah, exactly. But that's what this feels like. It feels like a randomizer edition where it's like people kind of ask for this, we'll just add it, and then like no one fucking touches it because of course no one was going to touch it because who wants to go back seasons? All the season content is still in the game. It doesn't make any sense. You've made so many problems for yourself for fucking no reason. Absolutely no reason. Like they literally, what they mentioned, like we've got to figure all this stuff out. Like, what are we going to do with the cosmetics? The past, you progress all individually. Like, we don't know if they're going to reveal like
Fuck.
the the previous the previous progression of
Yeah,
those things, but they might not even bring it back. Like, there are so many questions, so many problems that need solving for fucking nothing. It's such a pointless waste of time.
and if you want to
Like, it's
hear, if you want to
crazy.
hear entire episodes like this, you can watch any episode pre Roco announcement. You can watch any.
Yeah, like
Um,
that's this though. That is this content feels like from back then, and they're better than that now, right? That's the thing, which is why I feel like there probably is a good, a better reason, right? That like maybe it is like this is the perfect resources for those spare people to be doing. They couldn't be doing anything else, so they might as well be doing this. But I really hope it isn't as stupid as we turned off season 4. Why don't we turn on previous seasons? If it's that, and that's what they're wasting all this fucking time, energy, and thought on, I swear to God, like maybe they haven't learned their lesson. Like Jesus Christ, dude. Like I don't know. I can only hope there's more logic behind
yeah,
this.
it's like 90% of everything they're doing shows an understanding that pushing forward is the right move. So why are you bothering to look back at all? It's kind of my position.
Yeah, who the
Like,
fuck wants to go
no
back to
one's.
like you
It's the
literally?
literally. It's I think it's the least. I not the least popular, but it's just the least respected period of time. Is like the last 2 years. You know, Deep Rock.
Yeah, like
It's
I
the
mean,
least
you literally like
appreciated
they
period of the game's
know.
lifespan.
They fucked up so bad on season 4. You had to like they had to add a turn off button, right? What in their brain rot minds would want people to give people the option to go back to play season 4, right?
I want to
That's
meet the
what they're
guy who
adding.
does that. I want to meet the guy who does that straight away.
Yeah, but
As
like
soon
season
as he
five comes
can,
out, he's like,
as soon as he
no,
can,
like
he makes sure he's playing season 4. You know.
yeah, he does not want to engage in season 5. He's having none of it. Like I don't know, it's just so odd. It just reads tone deaf. It just reads seriously tone
I
deaf.
think this is a
Or
tone
there's
deaf thing.
something they're not telling us.
Yeah.
Either way, like it feels like 2023 Ghost Ship. That's it really does. And it's scary because everything is being green flag, good. Everything's going well. They learned their lesson, but this shows that maybe they haven't. Maybe they would just be getting lucky, right? Maybe
No,
they've
no,
just
because
been.
we know, like,
Maybe
especially like
they've
things like mission
playing to the
types.
biggest,
We
best
know
things.
Well, no, we know
Cool,
that
but
they've
it's a
learned
mission type,
things,
Harry.
and
What else were they going to add, right? Like, I mean, like mission type or biome was guaranteed. Either way, people would have loved it. They really were stuck to be making good
about
things.
what a mission type should be, what a new mission type should be. Um,
Sure,
that's something they pretty
but they might
definitively
still fuck
learned.
it up. But I don't know. These are just. It's just I don't know. Like this single feature is just painted such an odd color on them, which I don't know. Maybe they can iron it out in below decks, but hey, we won't fucking see any of them. So you know, well, I guess obviously he would probably have been working on this, right? The Steam post that this was posted. So play there, but from now on, I don't know why there wouldn't be any more. And plus, I don't know. That's yeah, they're on track to launch season 5 in June. But I don't know. I think that's enough. Um, other than that, there is obviously there's still more stuff that they haven't said yet. And the unfortunate thing is, even though that last thing sucks balls, they've said they're going to do it, so they're probably going to do it, which is a bit of a waste, but oh well. As long as they, I don't know. It's just annoying because it's like they're so precious about their resources. They're like, we're not going to waste time on making a radioactive bulk detonator because it doesn't provide much to the game. We're not going to waste our time doing it. And then they waste their time doing this and randomizer. And it's like, come on, get your fucking story straight, right? Like, if your time is so valuable, which it is with a team as small as you, right? Like, be better, and they have been getting better. But this is a bad sign.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can
A
actually
bad
get.
small
I'm gonna
warning.
actually, because I'm really interested in this. I genuinely feel compelled to try a number of methods of getting like an answer of some kind. I
I mean, I could probably message them.
like. I mean, because I guess like dev stream would probably be the worst method, really. Of, like typing
Yeah,
out
I can.
paragraph. It's like,
I'll
but like, I want to say to me, this reads as a tone deaf decision. I really haven't seen enough like suggestions to back this up. And you seem so precious with your time and resources for things that people really want. So why have you chosen to spend time on this? That's basically what I would ask. And like, do you actually really think this is a good move? That's basically how I would put it, and I think that's okay. I don't think that's particularly rude. It is definitely, it's like technically it is kind of hostile, but you need to be because I don't. Oh, I'm sinking.
yeah. All right. I could probably ask. I'm gonna ask. I won't get a response anytime soon, but I'm gonna put it in the content creator mod and devs
Can I give
communications.
you? Can I give you like
Chat.
the question? Can I give?
That'd probably be best.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Because I think we need to not think about that. Right. This is the whole point.
Yeah.
We need to think about what the good stuff that we know is coming, and almost all of it is. And that's what it is. And like I think people. I don't think they were necessarily expecting it. There's been this really weird. I think dynamic of what people are expecting out of the future season specifically of Deep Rock. I think going from the Roku announcement to now, and how that sort of developed. I think there's been a lot of people who are like, "Oh, the next one needs to be like the biggest ever and like super game changing." Right? There's that kind of view, and there's also the view that people just kind of think the next season's just going to be another wet fart. Right? It's kind of like both things, and it's not either. In fact, it's better than that. It's actually exactly what we need right now, which is just a solid update, a big,
There
solid, major
is.
content update that just, for the most part, is well chosen in terms of what it puts its time to.
I think there is
We don't need
literally
anything
no.
ridiculous. We don't need anything ridiculously
There
game
is.
changing. We just need a lot of the old stuff that we haven't gotten in a while,
Yeah.
and have
There
that
is
be
a
added to and expanded
zero.
upon.
There is a 0% chance that this season is going to be a wet fart. It's literally impossible. There is no way that what they add is like nothing of substance and a wet fart. The worst case scenario is it turns out to be more than a fart and they shit the bed, right? Where they add a significant amount of content and it's all fucking dog shit, right? The game mode's dog shit. The overclocks are bland and like terrible. Like even that's worst case scenario. They are adding substance. It cannot be a fart. It's at least going to be shit. All right. That's what I'm saying. that like this update is going to have stuff to chew on, which is
But like, I'm not even.
significantly better
I
than
can't
last
even
time.
pretend to be worried about that, right? Because even escort duty, which might not be the most well planned out mission type, it's still probably one of the better escort missions, like in video games. You know,
Yeah,
even then, you
I
know,
just think those
like
missions everyone always knows those suck.
even if the plan isn't good, the quality still kind of is. You know,
Yeah,
so I'm not
like
even. I can't pretend to be worried about that because the plan is
like it's
good as far
probably
as we
going to
can
be
tell. Because the plan.
yeah, it's going to be like worst case. It's going to be like a shit, but still there's going to be some gold nuggets in there. Like it's probably going to be one or two good cosmetics.
Yeah,
Like
like the
I don't
caretaker,
know.
it probably
They
wasn't wise to make such a ridiculously over like dramatic boss fight or whatever, but it's still a really good boss fight, you know. And it's like
yeah.
these kind of things. Yeah, I'm not worried about the quality at all. You know, when the plan's already so good. It's just the plans haven't
I
been
just think
quite there in a lot of recent
it
updates.
takes like closing your eyes, plugging your ears, and just say, "Yeah, this update's gonna be a wet fart." Like you have to have no idea what's going on to say something like that. Like it makes no fucking sense. Um, you're that like I don't know. You're not a person worth talking to at that point, really, right?
But we
Like
do want to hear from you guys because I think I want the next episode podcast specifically. I mean, we've done like comments videos before. I don't know, but we definitely want to hear from people because I think, especially for how long it's been going on, we're not going to get to comments today because chances are we're not going to say anything. Probably too tired at this point. So, but we'll either do that. That could either be its own video or possibly the next episode of the podcast. I'm not 100% sure, but I do think we need to bring this to a close. For number 3, so get off your phone. Get off.
it died, so I put in the button.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you all for watching. This was a overwhelmingly positive video, even if you may not remember it at this point in time. But yeah, no, the season 5 looks fucking great.
Yep.
We're so fucking hyped
Well, yeah,
for
the
it,
road
right?
to season 5 has begun, and it doesn't mean we're going to stop. That this is the entire point, right? And you know, this is, I wouldn't call us the most level-headed people, especially with what I did after you mentioned the overclocks, but this is
I
the
just
point.
did.
You're supposed to be able to have more than one opinion on something, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what this is. I feel like we actually
It's all good. It
displayed.
doesn't mean we get to stomach the bad, right?
No,
Like that
exactly.
kind of thing. And
Exactly.
just because there's bad doesn't mean it's all dog shit.
Exactly.
Like it's just I don't know.
Yeah. Which is why I'm really excited. And you know, we're on the road to season 5 now. I mean, kind of. I would say. Ooh, I don't know when you could really put that down to, because I don't know. We don't really know when we're going to start getting like things like teasers or what have you. But I guess we are on the road to season 5, even if you can't like see it yet. You know. But there's nothing else. You know, there's no other destination right now. That's the thing. So we're on the way to season 5, and I think it's actually, you know, based on everything they said, it's going to be the most openly developed season supposedly. So it should be a fairly scenic drive, hopefully.
Yeah, we
lots
should
to see on the way.
be hearing stuff, you know, about it. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if we actually see the Stalker probably sometime soon. To be honest with you, if he'd already been working on it, I think, and they already know we're getting the Stalker. I could easily see like a below decks.
Yeah,
on
below
the
decks of the
Stalker.
Stalker would actually make perfect sense, especially because like just like confirming it's a like addition in season 5, but more so talking about its like, you know, journey as like as a piece of development, you know, because I genuinely want to know more about it, like because it's you know, it's a really interesting case of an enemy of something being cut from an update and immediately like coming back in the next one because they didn't want to let it go. It hasn't just been dumped, you know. It's not on the cutting room floor.
It basically just got delayed rather than cut.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
yeah, essentially got delayed. So yeah. But yeah, I think we're done. Yeah,
we're done. We're done.
If you
We're
enjoyed,
done, Harry.
All right. Anyway, if you enjoyed this episode of the Battle Vision podcast, please make sure to like, subscribe, and if you want to stay on top of everything to do with Deep Rock and Roadcore, please make sure to click the bell as well. And of course, please leave your thoughts in the comments below. I'm sure we'll get around to talking about them at some point. I really want to know what you guys have to say about this, especially the reactivating old seasons thing. I want to know if you think we're on the right page. and whether or not we should be questioning Ghost Ship on this. I think we both clearly think we should be, but yeah, I think that's going to be it.
We are clearly
Thanks.
very competent.
Thank you as always for watching, and we'll see you. Well, I'll see you on Tuesday. I've got a build showcase to record at some point between now and then, but yeah.
That was my dwarf dance. You need to press the button to stop the video, Harry. You can't do that.
Hold on. Oh.